lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
Half-second lead over the sizzling car in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move, what a move.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the second part of the 11th round of Automobilista Australia's Supercars Championship for 2020. Last week it was all about qualifying and the top 10 shootout. Tonight it's the 250 kilometre endurance race. The same sort of format that we ran all the way back at round one at Adelaide, split over 2 weeks, and the same applies tonight. So qualifying results from last week set the grid for tonight. And it's a little bit of a different look in the commentary box tonight, not just because there's two of us here as per usual, but we've got a guest who's along with us tonight. But first and foremost, it's over to the brutally uncompromising Hans Brunswick. Good evening, Hans.
Good evening, Steve. Good evening, everyone. And great to be here once again at this fantastic facility, Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. And good to have another man on board in the bandwagon, and that's Luke Rosella. And Luke, what are you going to be up to tonight, mate?
Thanks, Hans. Yeah, it's great to be here. Great privilege to be commentating with you two tonight. I'm very excited. I think it's going to be an absolute cracker of a race. We've got some real fast guys right up the top, pretty close. It's my first look at a big endurance round as well for MS Oz, and yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing too, Luke. You've missed out on a good chunk of the season. You came in about the halfway point, so didn't get a chance to run the Adelaide 250, being a South Australian boy. You missed out on that one, and of course the Bend still up in the air on the calendar, just with some issues that we're trying to work through at the moment. So this is your first proper real look at the longer distance format of Supercars. For the viewers at home that are aware of seeing you out there on track in the last couple of rounds, you're actually competing in the Bathurst 1000 in iRacing, I believe, on the weekend. So you've been putting a bit of time into that, not so much into Automobilista Australia Supercars in the last week or two.
Yeah, me and Hayden Kruger, if you've never seen him, he did one round in GT3 here, but he's done a lot of ASC. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of practice for that. iRacing, it does require, if you want to be, right up there with the good guys, you got to be practicing a lot. So, yeah, me and him just been going through strategy, and it's sort of taken away a bit of the time I've been spending on Automobilista. But I'm very excited for that, because that's going to be another good race.
And of course, you competed in a 250k race at Bathurst last weekend, which you didn't do too badly in. A number of us were cheering you along in that one, but good luck for is it Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning.
So it's not too early, but Hayden is a bit of a late waker, so it's a bit of a stretch for him.
So that means you're going to be doing the early shift, then I take it, or the first stint or two.
That's what's the plan. No, it's going to be a good race. He's pretty quick as well, so. Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Well, best of luck to the pair of you, and look forward to see what you can get up to on Saturday. What we will get up to now is having a look at what happened just a week ago. For those of you that missed the stream last time, it was the qualifying session and the top 10 shootout for tonight's Phillip Island 250, and a longer qualifying session than usual. Everybody sort of petered out of pit lane, having a little bit extra time to what they're used to, and then proceeded to get on with the business. Debutant from last round in the Volvo, Dane Liccardo found the going a little bit tough, much like a couple of other drivers at turn 2, and Matt Cecil debuting in Supercars after having spent a fair bit of time in Super 2. He also found the going a little bit tough to acclimatise to in his Ford FGX Falcon. But the time slowly started to come in, with Thomas McMillan getting the honour of setting the first real lap, having gone out on track in third, and then two guys falling off the road. So he had the honours of putting the first time on the board. And the Lou Simsport guys also found it going tough. Turn 3 catching out Steve Burko, having to use the escape road at turn 4. about halfway through the session before we saw defending champion Brenton Foley come out, and he really struggled in the early going, just struggled to put a lap together. On all the flying laps that he attempted, something just went wrong, losing it over the top of Lukey Heights in that particular occasion, and then pressing on, and then the next lap, getting it all wrong coming out of Southern Loop and doing a bit of lawn mowing. So he was in a bit of a vulnerable position trying to get himself into the top 10 shootout as time wore on. And they were all chasing this man, Kurt Stenberg, with a provisional new qualifying record with a couple of minutes to go in the session, just ahead of his good mate in Thomas McMillan, both of them with 30.9s, and then Brenton Foley out of nowhere with a couple of minutes to go usurped the pair of them with a 130.8 to go top of the standings at the later stages of qualifying. And a couple of late improvements saw this man get into the top 10, Termo aboard the Kmart Racing Commodore. And then our top 10 was set for the shootout with this man, Will Devonish, getting up there in the most of the big guns as well. So results out of the qualifying, at the time it was a new track record for Brenton Foley, 130.899, just ahead of Stenberg and McMillan, nothing covering those guys. Four cars at the head of the field covered by 2/10, and then Termo, Pither, Brendan Ross, Burko, Lime Mitch and Cam Rutledge all progressed to the top 10 shootout, which followed on pretty much immediately from qualifying. A little bit of a different order though. For some reason, Chris L.W. Pither decided he was the first man that wanted to get out there on track, a little bit anxious, didn't want to wait for his fourth placed slot, and promptly ran off the road at turn 2, much like Dane Liccardo did in qualifying. So he would start pretty much plumb last with not really a good time on the board. That gave Cam Rutledge the honour of having the first truly representative time for everybody to chase. And he did pretty well aboard the 015 machine. And slowly and surely they all started to put some times down. This man, who's been the king of one-shot qualifying in Super 2 all year long, Lime Mitch, put in a scorching lap, and that lap stood for most of the session actually. Everybody came and went and had a go, and eventually they started to get past him. That little moment there for Will Devonish is what cost him a much better lap time, not being able to get the power down out of turn 2, but he was the first man that would usurp Lime Mitch's time at the top of the standings. McMillan was in the game. He ran wide at turn 11, and that cost him any chance of a front row berth, but still a pretty handy top 5 result at the end of the day for the VB Pleb Simsport Commodore. Kurt Stenberg, what can we say? Pulled out the stops when it mattered, and a new track record to boot, and that left Brenton Foley rather, with a very, very tall task to chase. He gave it his all, but he didn't quite get there in the end, but it was an equal season best qualifying for Foley, starting with a berth on the front row alongside the current championship leader. So out of the shootout, there it is there, a new track record for Kurt Stenberg, lowering Foley's mark by just over a tenth. Foley alongside on the first row, Devonish and Lime Mitch to share a row. Look at that, 5 positions gained in the shootout for Lime Mitch. And at the opposite end of the scale, the Volvo of Chris L.W. Pither going backwards 4 from where he qualified at the beginning of the night. So along with the drivers that have just come into the server tonight, that sets the scene, lads, for a pretty interesting race. And Foley and the championship leader of Kurt Stenberg off the front row, only the second time this year that they've shared the front row, Hans.
Yeah, that's right. Only the second time they've shared the front row, but it's good to see Foley up there in second. He couldn't quite stitch the lap together to get on pole like he did in the provisional qualifying session, but Kurt Stenberg, he pulled out a great lap and he got pole in the end. And Foley, last car out, a very daunting task to have to set a 1 minute 37.9, I believe, and he did set a decent time to get onto the second row. The second place on the grid on the front row. So good start from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the ones that I guess we look to and we sort of see a little bit further down the order, Thomas McMillan, he was on for a good lap. He was going to be on the second row, just bowling it wide a little bit there at turn 11. Very, very easy to do. It's one of those corners that sort of sucks you in a little bit. So just starting 2 positions lower than what he otherwise would have had he been able to press on with that lap, because he was only about a tenth and a half down to the second sector split, and he ended up losing about a half second just in that last sector by that very, very innocuous mistake.
Yeah, McMillan's lap to get into the shootout was very, very quick. So bit of a shame that he couldn't get to show a similar pace, and obviously he fell 2 spots back from his provisional qualifying spot. But how about Lime Mitch, though? He actually qualified in 4th place, and that was very good. That was about, I believe it was 4 spots up from where he qualified.
Yeah, 5 spots, in fact. And
5 spots,
yeah,
there you go.
He was really up there, and as I said, he's been one of the drivers that was, as we said, king of the one-lap dash in Super 2, and I think pretty much almost he was the Super 2 pole winner, I guess, if you can call it that, earlier in the year, that championship having been over. He probably had well over half the proper qualifying pole positions, because some of those races were reverse grid races, so of course pole really doesn't sort of count because there's no qualifying session that precedes it. But he's transferred that form over into the one-lap dash format last week with pretty much almost like it was second nature to him, and, well, vaulted up the order. But we've seen this from him before, I guess, as well. It's going to be about the race pace for that Monster Energy Mustang. The Super 2 races, much, much shorter, much more compressed, so essentially being a sprint race, whereas tonight, very, very long distance, and the last time we saw it at Hamilton, he just struggled a little bit, just started to go backwards a little bit the longer that the race dragged on. So he'll have to just be keeping himself into a rhythm tonight and trying to avoid a repeat of what he did at Hamilton.
Yeah, for sure. And he is a gun starter, so if he can repeat some of the forceful driving we've seen in GT3 and Super 2, maybe he'll be half a chance of being up there in the first few laps and giving the top end of the order a good shake.
Driver point standings coming into tonight. Of course, there's no change from last week when we revisited these points anyway, so it's pretty much a rehash of what we had. Kurt Stenberg at the top of the point standings. He enjoys a nice little buffer at the moment, 237 points back to Will Devonish. And Brenton Foley still within touching distance, but if Will and Brenton can't sort of finish ahead of Kurt Stenberg tonight, it's going to make their not only respective championship assaults and championship defences very, very difficult, because after tonight there's only 3 rounds left. Our man in the commentary box, Luke Rosell, has found himself up in 6th place. So at the moment, Luke, you're sitting pretty much mid-table on the graphic there, behind Termo and ahead of Lewis Wedding. So tonight not racing obviously means you don't score any points, but how have you found the going in AMS Oz Supercars since you joined? Because you've sort of been a bit of a revelation, just sort of quietly been sneaking up the order, got yourself a race win at Hamilton as well. You've been on the podium a couple of times, and you're starting to really enjoy yourself from what Hans and I see whenever we're watching you on screen.
Yeah, it's a great car to drive. It requires a lot of skill to be really, really good in it. It took me a while to actually get used to get the most out of the car. Of course, I started over at ASC and they got slightly different sort of physics. So, yeah, it took a bit of a while to get the most out of the car. But, yeah, I've also worked on qualifying as well. I think I've improved on my qualifying pace from when I first started. But, yeah, I've said this a few times as well. It's a shame I didn't start at the start of the season, because I would have been, right up there with the top 4, maybe even the top 3 as well.
Yeah, I think that's a sentiment Hans and I have both echoed on a couple of occasions. Of course, your debut round was round 3, if memory serves me correctly, at Barbagallo. Or it might have been 5. It's been that long ago that I've completely forgotten a lot of it. But your debut there didn't sort of go without incident. You were looking pretty good, but the Gremlins sort of struck, and you finished a bit further down the order than you otherwise would have in that second race. But other than that, you've trucked along pretty well. You've kept yourself out of trouble, and it's a credit to you. You find yourself pretty much mid-table on those standings on the screen right there after not competing the whole entire season. Definitely a feather in your cap.
Yeah, it's good to have that. I wanted to have a continuous streak of podiums, but I had a bit of a shocker. But I've been really happy with my performance, and hopefully I can actually get to a round with a few rounds to go. Yeah, since I'm busy with other sim racing, but really happy.
Excellent. We go over to the team's points again. They've also not changed from last week. There were no points awarded in the qualifying and top 10 shootout last week, so those points standings remain untouched. CRE Race Engineering still at the head of the table from Loose Sim Sports, so that's a battle that we're going to be interested in not only tonight but for the balance of the season. Still a lot to play for between those two teams, and PBF Race Engineering are just starting to lose a little bit of touch with the top two at the moment. So we expect, Hans, that this is probably going to start to become a race in two teams over the course of tonight and the next 3 rounds.
Yeah, and it's important for each of the team's drivers to be consistent, because if one bad finish could spell the end for the team's chances in the team's championship. And Will and I pretty much experienced that in the GT3. So, we had a poor qualifying for race 2, and race 2 was a bit of a disaster for us. Will got a second place, but I was down the order, so caught up in a couple of incidents. So it's easy to do for teams, and they've got to ensure that they've got as many cars as they can finishing up the top end of the order.
Yeah, spot on. Tonight's track, well, we alluded to this last week. We've actually updated it with the new qualifying track record from last week with Kurt Stenberg's 130.791 aboard the ZB Commodore. We expect that Brenton Foley's race lap record of a 132 flat is likely going to be eclipsed tonight. We're already seeing at least a half a dozen drivers, or close to a half dozen drivers below that mark. They'll all be focusing, of course, on their long run pace, so we're going to be looking with interest to see what record will replace that one on the bottom there. The distance tonight, 57 laps, just over 250 kilometres around this almost 4.5k circuit. We've got a little bit of some history lined up tonight. We think it's going to be a little bit of a long race, so we're going to have a bit of a chat about the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, and a couple of interesting things that I found out last night. One of them about the hay shed, which of course we spoke about last week, having been gone at this circuit, been removed for over 12 months now. Got a little bit of a story about what the go is with that as well, because probably not a lot of people realise this circuit has been in operation for over 60 years now, so there's plenty of all sorts of weird and wonderful tales that we can fill in our night with tonight as well. Of course, the other thing that we are hurtling towards after tonight is the Bathurst 500. So that is very quickly coming up as well. Just over 2 weeks left for guys to get their registrations in. And we're already looking at a pretty nice grid so far of around about 20 cars. There's still some room. We've got room for another 4 more at least. So on the 22nd of October, we go qualifying. On the 25th of October, we go racing. And already there's starting to become a few liveries that are starting to look really, really impressive. So some of them are going to reveal for you tonight. So here's the first father and son combination of Wayne and Liam Spencer. The number 50, the Domino's ZB Commodore there, looking very, very nice to take on Wayne's
car.
livery. It's an exceptional car. Here's the 718 from Kiwi Sim Sports, a pair of very, very quick Kiwis in Scott Stancliffe and Tim Redmond pairing up for that one. Also aboard a ZB. Pete Savage and Will Devonish have decided not to produce a livery. They've just fell in love with the Lowndes Autobahn racing livery. And there's NZ Snipes and Cheese and the Transmesh Racing Nissan Altima, the only Nissan in the field so far. On top of that, there's a few guys with a little bit too much time on their hands and have gone to some, well, let's just say some fantastic lengths to go with a reveal. Here's a little one that was prepared a bit earlier in the week. Well, there you go. Great job by Daniel Cox with his reveal there for the Anson Motorsports car, and also revealing his driver combination pairing for the 500 as well. So that's a new face to AMS Oz. So we look forward to seeing what the boys can do when they get out there on track in a couple of weeks' time. Hans, I know you're pairing up for the 500 with Steve Burko, and Luke, you're pairing up. I believe who have you got on the bill? Oh, you're pairing up with Lime Mitch. So there's two very interesting pairings here. Let's go to Hans first. How do you you got a good relationship with Burko? You guys seem to get along pretty well. So I like that pairing a lot.
Yeah, it's a good pairing, I think, because the race radio in the race is just going to be gags left, right, and centre. So it's going to be. I mean, if we hopefully we do well, or else the gags will take a very depressing and macabre turn. But no, Steve and I, we get along very well, and I mean, I get along with everyone well here because everyone's very nice and friendly to me. But I think if we can keep a consistent pace, and we can keep punching out some good lap times, and if we qualify well enough and we get a good start and keep out of trouble in the first couple of stints, then I think we'll be on for a good result, and hopefully we can put it all together. I mean, 500k race is massive, so if we can put it all together, we'd be absolutely stoked.
Yeah, I agree. Now to you, Luke. Paired with one of my favourite pairings, yourself and Lime Mitch, two very, very quick, talented drivers, two very young drivers as well. Lime Mitch, we've already seen the king of the one-lap dash. Have you had a chance to work very much with him with regards to anything for the 500 just yet, or you're sort of saving that until after your iRacing exploits are done?
Yeah, like two young guns, but I've worked a little bit. Not as much as I would have wanted in these sort of testing, pre-race sort of testing. But yeah, certainly like you said, after all this iRacing stuff sort of winds down a bit, I'll be me and him will be working on setup and race strategy. But yeah, I'm really, really excited. I think we've got one of the probably fastest pairings in the race. And of course, shout out to my second car, the Volvo dealer team of Liccardo, and an unconfirmed second driver yet, but we'll get that sorted out soon. But yeah, I'm excited to have a two-car assault into this tough race. It's gonna be fun though.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that one. Of course, that will be broadcast here on the Outworld Broadcasting channel over that October 22nd to 25th time period as well. And there's probably about a half a dozen pairings, I think, that I look at on the entry sheet so far and see, a potential winner. And there's probably about 10 pairings that I think of that are in contention for a podium. Should anything go wrong there as well. There's two father and son pairings in the field. There's some guys that are coming from ASC. There's guys that are seasoned veterans that have been in the series for a long time. And good to see a huge variety of guys pairing up, not just guys that are rivals in our Supercars series in different teams pairing up to form different pairings going into this 500. So it's not just all about who you're running with in the Supercars Championship now. That just goes to show the camaraderie that's in the group amongst all of the drivers, which is great to see that some of these different pairings are coming on board to contest our first special event since the Bathurst 3-hour that we ran at the start of 2019. So very, very good to get the support, continued support from all the drivers. And not only that, some of the guys that are coming on to sponsor the series as well. I can reveal tonight that the title sponsor for the 500 is Matt Harvey Repair and Tune. So big thanks to Brock for organising that with Matt, and is officially known as the Matt Harvey Repair and Tune Bathurst 500. So naming right sponsor, there you go for tonight. And there's a couple of other guys that are organising a bit of sponsorship as well. So a big thanks to those guys for helping us to cover some of the costs that we pay out of our own pockets to keep AMS Oz going, because that's all we've sought to achieve. And big thanks to those guys. All right, we are just waiting on the qualifying session to be skipped and then the grid to be set. So while we wait for that to happen, we may as well have a look at what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. So it's pretty much Porsche Cup and ATCC Central for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Porsche Cup from Surface Paradise next week. That's the V8 layout. Lewis Wedding is the man who looks after that series and the broadcast as well. Does a sterling job, as always. And the same week, or so a week later, the Sydney Motorsport Park round for the ATCC Group A series gets on. There's only a couple of rounds left in that one. I think Sydney and the other one opposite at Oran Park are the last 2 rounds, if memory serves me correctly, Hans. You're in that series as well, and I believe that's the final 2 rounds before we get to the Bathurst Championship Enduro.
Yeah, and I believe Bathurst is now becoming a non-championship event.
Actually, yes, you're right.
Yeah, so because it's going to be a 2.5-hour enduro, I believe it's going to be a non-championship event, and I guess you might see a couple of the regulars sort of drop off, depending on what their feelings are over it. But the last 2 rounds, 2 Sydney circuits, both in the west of Sydney. Oran Park, obviously, since passed on, it's now a housing estate, and great circuit as well. Good, well put together circuit, the Oran Park LiDAR circuit, and the Sydney Motorsport Park circuit as well. That's one of the better circuits that have been made for AMS, and it would be good just to run those cars around there and bring back a bit of nostalgia, especially with Oran Park since being gone. Yeah,
Oran Park does get a little bit of a run-in with everything in AMS Oz. It's had quite a fair bit of involvement. The Lancers have been there. We've had Supercars there. TCAC's done a little bit there as well. So it does get a fair bit of use. It's one of those circuits that we like to dig up. That doesn't get a lot of use in a lot of other series, but we like to put it to some good use. And then the other one that's on the calendar there with the Porsche Cup is the Imola layout. That's there, the 2018 layout. That is the one-off long-distance endurance race. I think it's a 200-kilometre race. I think if memory serves me correctly, I'll have to go and check that one out. But for the majority of the Porsche Cup, it's a 2-race format with a shorter race and then a slightly longer race to go along with it. There's usually about 5 or 6 laps difference in the racing each night. The Imola one is going to be the first one where pit stops are probably going to be required because I don't think you can quite make the distance on a full tank of fuel. So it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out when we get to that at the 13th of October. But of course, the Supercars calendar did have the Bathurst event in as a championship event as well at round 12, which everything's now moved up. And so you can see there's quite a big gap between the race tonight and then our next event for Supercars on the 5th of November. So in that gap, we've got to squeeze in, I think it's 3 ATCC rounds. There's at least 2 Porsche Cup rounds that were on your previous screen. And of course, the Bathurst 500, the qualifying and the shootout. And then the race to go along with it as well. Looks like the grid is just in the process of being set, guys. It looks like there's a couple of drivers that are just starting to head out onto track, so we might see if we can pick up a little bit of action. There was a bit of smoke in pit lane, and I think that might have been Stenberg and McMillan just starting to get a few practice starts in from the pit lane, just practicing dipping the clutch and releasing it at the optimal bite point. Using the pit lane, and I think that there's just the grid's just in the process of being set, so hopefully not too far away, Hans, from a race start. Expecting about 90 minutes to last tonight, with lap time sort of in the low 1:30s, do you think?
Definitely the faster guys will be in the mid to high 1:31s for most of the race, and we've even seen a couple of low 31s be set, but not sure if they were on a full race setup. But hopefully we can see a lot of guys, mostly in the 32s, and it's going to be a very interesting race if we can see like a big battle pack forming up, as we usually see in some of the slower categories here, like Formula V and Hyundai XLs. We see that in real life, a battle pack forming on the Gardner Straight, and if we could see that in V8 tonight, that'd be fantastic.
I'm sorry to interrupt whatever you're chewing on there. I can tell that you're eating. Maybe your Uber Eats has arrived.
Well, you know what it is. I just haven't had dinner, and I decided to nick off and go and make myself a sanger in the process. So I'm just like, I've got to go and say an opinion. So I'll try and chew it down as fast as I can, and thankfully I've managed to get it all into my esophagus now. So fantastic.
I will let you continue to digest that one. Interesting point that you do bring up, and I might turn to Luke on this one. With regards to pack racing in the supercars. You've been involved in a couple of battle packs. Hans raises a valid point. In real life here, with a lot of series like Formula V's, they do run in packs, but it also is an opportunity to have what we call Slipstream City, where you get a nice big slipstream coming out of, say, turn 2 down to turn 4 for a pass, or you get a slipstream coming out of turn 12 if you're close enough down to turn 1. What's your experience like with regards to trying to get that slipstream to work and work effectively in these cars?
Yeah, it's actually quite good, the slipstream in these cars. It's stronger than I thought originally coming in. But yeah, you just gotta keep as close as you can on the exits as possible so you can maximize that slipstream, and yeah, you get past, but you got to push and try and break that slipstream as well if they want to fight back, and either pushing hard and making a gap, or doing some cheeky sort of snaking on the straight. So yeah, there's a couple of strategies to it.
What about the defence? I guess the defensive position is something that you've got to get onto pretty quickly once you've had a slipstream and you've been able to make a passing move. Being able to get far enough in front to be able to shut the door to prevent any potential comeback as well. That's I guess, part of the lost art of slipstreaming and passing, isn't it?
Yeah. Particularly if you're fighting someone that's pretty quick and it's pretty close to your pace. You just got to be right. You got to be right on it. You got to be switched on. And yeah, you just gotta weave a bit, not too much to get a penalty, but yeah, break that slipstream so he can't maximise it, and yeah, of course, push hard, try break a gap in front of him.
Well, part of the art, I guess, is you're right, of trying to break a slipstream is you're allowed to weave on the straight and stuff like that, and that's perfectly legal when you're battling with one car. But as soon as you get ready to approach Peter Savage having a bit of a moment trying to get into pit lane there. When you get an opportunity to try and break a slipstream, you're allowed to weave left and right, so that's all perfectly legal. But then when you prepare to brake for a braking zone or for a corner, you have to commit to your line, and you're not allowed to deviate. You've had your opportunity to really make your one move. So pretty much once you are weaving and you move back to assume the racing line, you've made your move, you have to stick to it, so you still are open to attack from another car if they decide to send it up the inside. So you've got to be far enough ahead that the car behind you that's trying to follow you and playing, as you said, snakies across the track, doesn't get enough of a slipstream that you get repassed.
Yeah, you got to be cheeky, but you got to be fair at the same time. Yeah, it's not like you said. If he's too close, you got to commit to that one defensive line that you've made, and yeah, that's how you defend position on a big straight with a lot of slipstream.
Of course, the lost art as well, Hans, we've mentioned it a few times, of the block pass is something that everybody needs to learn. I think it's a dying art, the block pass. Being able to get your car in position, slide it up in front of the car that you're trying to get ahead of, and just do it at precisely the right moment so it arrests the momentum of the car behind, or that is now behind, coming back at you. Just breaks their chance of really getting on the power and trying to get you on a crisscross or trying to follow you down the straight. It just forces them to check up a little bit and allows you to get away.
Yeah, basically you just go down the inside, park it on the apex, and really block off their run from being able to get a crisscross on you, and pretty much hope for the best from that stage. But if you do it just right, no one notices a thing.
It's a lot of those passes are often unintentional, I think, is the best way people can describe a block pass. It turns into just a normal pass, and then for a random reason, it just becomes a block pass all of its own accord.
Yeah, especially if your car pitches sideways and all that. I've made passes on people where the rears are locked, and I've got a fistful of opposite lock on the lock stops, and I'm trying not to hit the person beside me. And Luke's laughing because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. And yep. I've just got to the apex, and I'm like, oh, I'm out of control here. I need to slow down. And obviously, when you're on the inside, you're basically cutting off all your apex speed. So it's very funny. And then they end up rear-ending you, which is very, very humorous indeed.
All right, we're about to get the grid away for this 57-lap encounter. Now, just keep an eye out there, guys. You can see how little room there is on this very compact grid. That's unfortunately something that the track has given us to deal with. Super 2 guys have had to go through it already. Let's have a look at this 15-car grid, Hans.
15-car grid tonight, led by Kurt Stenberg with a fantastic qualifying. He was in pole position in the top 10 shootout with a 1:30.79. Fantastic lap. Followed by Brenton Foley. He put a very good effort in to start alongside him on the front row of the grid and was provisional pole in the qualifying session before the shootout. Will Devenish back in third, so he'll be looking for a good run from the second row of the grid. Lyle Mitch gains 5 spots from his provisional qualifying in the shootout to 4th place. Thomas Millen falls back 2 positions after it all went wrong in his shootout lap. Steve Burko, new boost livery on the car tonight, and Steve Burko, he'll be looking to give a good shake at the top of the field. Brendan Ross steps into the seat left vacant by Phil Boak, who I hope is watching along. And hello, Boakey, if you are watching along, we hope to see you back soon. Turmo up in 8th place. Cam Rutledge alongside him, or rather behind him, in 9th place. And Matt Cecil will round out the top 10. Brody in 11th. Dane Liccardo, he's changed cars from the Volvo. He's in the Erebus Motorsport guest car now. And Ozrob in 13th place. Lewis Wedding back in 14th, and Pete Savage in 15th place.
Couple of changes that you just alluded to there, Hans. One of them is this man. So Dane Liccardo was in the Volvo last week. He's now gone over to the Commodore, and he's only done the one round to date, which was the last round at Sydney Motorsport Park, so that's not going to be terrible in terms of the point standings, or there's not going to be anybody upset by that. The other item that was there that you mentioned was this man, Ozrob, who's taking over the Liam Spencer number 4 ZB Commodore out of the CRE Race Engineering stable. And that, I believe, is just a once-off for this week. Liam unable to take part, so which means he wasn't able to qualify the car last week. Consequently, Rob wasn't able to qualify the car last week due to some commitments, so that's why that car's starting outside the 10 and only appearing tonight for the first time. And Lewis Wedding, well, we did have a little bit of a funny moment last week with a certain Chris Pither, who we alluded to as Chris LW Pither, taking part in the top 10 shootout and qualifying, not taking part now tonight, and that's why a couple of cars have moved up the order. So Matt Cecil was 11th on qualifying night, and he is now in 10. So everybody that qualified outside the 10 last time just moves up 1 spot. So 10th, 11th becomes 10th, 12th becomes 11th, and so on and so forth. And a couple of quick guys starting at the back. So Pete Savage and Lewis Wedding, we're going to be interested to see how they go trying to progress through this field. Pete Savage was right up there in the times, Luke, so we'll be keeping an eye on him with vested interest to see what sort of headway he can make.
Yeah, I think he's going to be hard charger of the race. Let's see where he can get to at the end of the race, but here we go.
Just waiting on a couple of cars to get into position. Here we go. 57 laps of the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. 250 kilometres. Starts now. And a good shot from Foley. Got a much better launch off the front row than Kurt Stenberg did. That's the first time we've seen Stenberg really not be able to hook it up and get it together. Although he's starting to charge a little bit now. Has to fend off Thomas McMillan, who's made some ground on and past Will Devenish, who's been demoted down to 4th. And fighting away there with Lyle Mitch. Foley's going to have to go around the outside to hold position from Stenberg here, who stuck his nose in there at turn 2. And they're going to run side by side, and I think Stenberg's going to come out with the whole shot here out of Southern Loop, or is he? Foley's going to try and stay with him at Stoner, but I think this could be a bridge too far. Going to be hard.
Going to be difficult. Oh, McMillan, he's going to make it 3 wide. He's going down inside.
Oh, that's so tight.
Brave move. That's a brave move for lap 1, but Stenberg retains his lead.
And Foley's going to fight it back straight away at Siberia, and McMillan's had a
start from. And he's up 3 spots from the start.
Had a ripping start too. I'm not sure how he managed to get past Will Devenish on the start there. It was a very tight grid, but he's done the job, and he's already into 2nd place. So the good mates, 1 and 2 at the moment on the road, Stenberg and McMillan. Foley tried to fight it back at Siberia. Didn't allow it to happen. Now Devenish has a look down at MG, and that was a little bit too tight, a little bit of a day late and $1 short there. And already cars starting to get real twitchy as they try and apply the power out of turn 11 to get the run onto this front straight. There's one lap in the books, 56 more to go. Have a look at
Millen right on the back of Kurt Stenberg now. He's just that's the draft we see at Phillip Island, and it's a lot more magnified we see here than we would in real life ordinarily. But Kurt Stenberg, he looked like he was struggling on the start. The car pitched sideways at the wrong moment. Brenton Foley's back to third, and Will Devenish, he is right behind him in fourth place. Mitch, he's gone back one spot, and he's battling with his old sparring partner, Steve Burko, fifth and sixth right now. Ooh, big lock-up from Will Devenish and Foley as well. Actually, that was Foley that had the lock-up, so he's lost the spot to Devenish, and he goes back to fourth.
Yeah, very easy move in the end for Will Devenish there. And just one of the it's the hardest stop on the circuit is Honda Hairpin. And we'll get a bit of a look now from Will Devenish's car on the approach coming down the hill into Stoner Corner. You can see the two ZB Commodores a bit further ahead. And the problem for Foley, I think, there was that he was changing direction at the same time he was braking or starting to apply the brakes, and that just sort of upset the balance of the car a little bit, and he couldn't quite get the right amount of braking force completed. You've got to be able to brake in straight lines, and that's where you've got to scrub off most of your speed. Trail braking is very much an art, but when you're applying the brake at maximum pressure and you pretty much
Stenberg's loose out of the last corner.
Well, he's loose out of the final corner. Very well spotted there, Luke. And now McMillan's going to try and force his way around the outside, the long way around, and Stenberg gives it to him. I'm surprised he didn't fight that one back. McMillan far enough in front to go to the race lead. So change of race position at the head of the queue. Just coming back to that
Brenton. Race.
Yeah, in a 250k race.
A good move again.
That's coming back to Brenton Foley. As we were saying, when you're applying maximum braking force, you don't want to be doing it when you're changing directions. You want to be doing it in straight lines and then scrubbing off your foot from the brake pedal as you get to the corner. So he just was a little bit out of control when he went to apply maximum pressure, hence the lock-up a lap ago at this exact spot.
Easy to do there at turn 3 as well, because you're still turning a little bit. The car's still got a bit of attitude on it by the time you get to the braking zone at turn 3. In these cars, we brake somewhere between the 100 and 150 marker. Probably in real life, it would be more so to the 150 marker, and in GT3 cars, you're more closer to the 100 marker. But now the top part of the field, they're starting to spread out a bit with the exception of Stenberg and McMillan. And McMillan, he's getting a big hurry up right now from Stenberg.
Yeah, so too Mitch getting a real hurry up from Steve Burko as well. Lewis Wedding, the two guys that started at the back, Lewis Wedding's made his way up to P7. There he is, just back a shot there, just behind this pair. Pete Savage has really had to fight hard to get through the field. After lap 1, he was only 14th and he started plumb last. He's now up to 12th. He's tucked in behind Osrob's Commodore. As the lap times, the fastest laps of the race start to change very, very quickly. So it was McMillan followed by Stenberg, then Will Devenish has now snatched the fastest lap away.
31.3, that's a good lap.
That's a new track record as well for race trim. And Lime Mitch defending very, very heavily and very fairly, making Burko go the long way round at Southern Loop. Oh, and Burko a little bit loose. Car did not want to agree with him there, and that'll lose him a couple of car lengths. That's similar to what happened to Will Devenish in qualifying last week. Went to apply the power at the wrong moment. Car jumped sideways, couldn't get the power down. Elsewhere, looking a bit further back, you can just see Brendan Ross ahead of Turmo. So Rossi having started P7 on the road, Turmo having started, where was he? P8, so they've both slid backwards one spot. They've been displaced by Lewis Wedding, who's gotten past a pair of them. There he is, scooting off on his run to Lukey Heights. Dane Liccardo's found his way into the top 10, guys.
Dane Liccardo, he's been pretty good with his starts lately, actually. He's probably gone to the Hans Brunswick School to start, so once he knows he's up and running. Peter Savage, he's up to 11th now.
Yep.
Couldn't make the qualifying last week. Let me see, I'm just looking at Cam Rutledge and Matt Cecil. They're having a good battle for 13th and 14th, so battles all the way through the field. Yeah,
in behind them here. Luke, our race leaders are playing your favourite game. They were playing snakies across the road for a minute there, but Will Devenish is starting to gain on him very, very quickly. Yeah. He's set the quickest lap of the race again.
Stenberg wanted to stay behind McMillan, just run their own race, but I think he's holding him up a bit, and I think he has to make the move on McMillan because Devenish, He's closing in on this top 3 battle for the lead here.
I just noticed as well, Foley was very wide at turn 1 too. He had 2 wheels on the outside at turn 1, but he didn't lose any spots. He managed to gather it up. Stenberg, I think, is probably going to look to maybe pull the trigger here. Not quite. Just feigned back in last minute. Although McMillan's made it, I think, maybe just been worried out of the position there. And, oh, he's going to have to fight this one through Siberia. Now Forstini the long way around. Going to leave him a little bit of space, which is good. Now Will's got to pick a line here. This is like a rolling roadblock.
They've got to cooperate here because Will is looking very menacing there.
Will, he's caught up very quickly. So maybe McMillan was actually holding up Stenberg. He actually had quite a bit of pace early on. And McMillan, he's on occasion showed glimpses of good form.
Yep. Notice the bumper sticker there for Thomas McMillan. It's the first time we've seen it. It says, "Don't follow me, I'm lost too."
I made a remark about that at Hidden Valley, actually. That was one of the last rounds he did complete in his entirety. Yeah, don't follow me, I'm lost too. So, who knows? He's not particularly lost at the moment because he's up there in second, and he's got quite a bit of pace on board the 248 car.
Not only that, as we wait to see what he does here on the run to turn 1, stays in behind Stenberg. The comment I think that everybody likes to use with McMillan, we've used it a couple of times, is whenever he's on a heater, he refers to as a hot lap. And we remarked during the pre-race, just before we went to air, what a good sponsor for his car would be Illusion Gas Log Fires, who's a company down here in Victoria, because their motto is on all their TV broadcasting is wood heaters, wood heaters, wood heaters.
I think that's a sponsorship opportunity there. So keen for the activation.
Oh yeah, so am I. Illusion Gas Log Fires. If you're looking for a sponsor and a car to put it on, or sponsorship and a car to put it on, this VB Pleb Sim Sport Commodore I think deserves a little bit of a shoe-in.
Burko up into 5th while we're talking there, guys. Made a move, I think, down the inside of turn 1 onto light mix. So Burko looking to make a bit of progress here. Yeah,
well spotted there, mate. He's finally managed to make that move stick on the Monster Energy Mustang. And Lewis Wedding has now made real headway while the going's been tough, and these guys have been tripping over each other, and he's right on the back of them now as well. Brendan Ross has managed to drop Termo, who I think's made a mistake somewhere. Just having a look on the lap times, I think he's had a bit of a tardy lap, a lap or two ago, and yeah, he had a 1:43. That was at the beginning. And he's had a bad middle sector this time around, so somewhere on the lap for Termo, he's had an off, I'd imagine. He was some like 7 seconds or so off what the ultimate pace was.
Yeah, Brenton Foley fastest of the top 4 there, so he's making the most of that clean air. Yeah.
He's not making any real ground, though. That's the only thing. Like, here's his teammate on screen, Brendan Ross, who's sort of just running solo. But if we go up to Brenton Foley, so looking at the lap times, last time around, 32 flat for
Stenberg. He's at a moment. He's off the road. He's off the road.
He's off.
Water.
That's a major mistake. And that's, again, heavy braking zone. So McMillan goes through. Devenish goes through. Foley's eyes will have lit up like dinner plates. And thinking that maybe now Stenberg has a little bit of garbage and a bit of junk on those tyres. And he's got a little bit of work to do. So let's have a look at it on the other replay.
That tyre's probably looking a bit ordinary as well.
How bad was it? Let's get a look at it. And, the rear was sliding, and right rear. So, bit too much braking pressure. Again, maybe it's a little correction on the steering wheel. Rear end jumped sideways, went into a lock, the diff went locked up. And he had to bail out of it and bail out in a big hurry. Used the escape road to good effect, which is what the cars do in real life. I think in supercars they're told that if they outbrake themselves and they cross that white line, they have to go the long way round, which is the old
long way.
The old turn
MotoGP.
4. Yeah, the old. Well, there's
the old turn 4. That's right. Yeah. So a lot closer to the old Phillip Island layout, where the turn 4 actually came a fair way in, further into the infield. That place is still there today, and it actually makes up the road for the dummy grid.
Line mix around the outside of Steve Burko for P5. They're still battling here.
And that was only just recently too, and Lewis Wedding is looking at the back of these guys going,
he's off!
And there he goes. So, bowled it wide at turn 2. Again.
He's very lucky. Generally, when you make the grass there, you make the fence.
You're absolutely spot on if the escapisms are coming out. So this is what happened with Lime Mitch and Burko. Oh, and he's done the old trick right around the outside at turn 1, has he? Yeah, he has, and that's a difficult move to pull off. I've done it once or twice when we ran TCR here, and then got his block pass on almost to perfection, but then just out-braked himself going into turn 2 and coughed up not only the one he just gained, but he also coughed one up to Lewis Wedding as well.
Yeah, a lot of mistakes early on from a few key people in this race so far. So they want to keep it clean, look after those tyres for the first stint.
And Pete Savage has now dispatched Brendan Ross, so he's now into P8. So he's started to make some progress through the field. He's now going to come up to a very, very angry hornet's nest, I think was the word we can call it. Getting a couple of comments in the live stream from fellow commentator Josh Baggs, who was with us at GT3 on Tuesday night, saying, do dinner plates light up? Well, I think the ones in Brenton Foley's eyes probably did. They should have lit up like dinner plates. I should have said would have been the size of dinner plates. I like to mix a couple of those ones up and now. His eyes would have lit up, but yeah, I guess you can. Maybe that's the next thing. You know, we saw on The Big Bang Theory, luminescent fish. Maybe we can now have luminescent dinner plates. Now, Wedding has gone to the head of this queue, so he's up 9 spots from the rear of grid from what he started. So now will be interesting to see how he goes about catching the leading 3 or 4 cars. Interesting enough, out of the leading 3, Will Devonish has gone to the lead in the last half a lap.
We missed that. We saw Will looking very menacing on Thomas McMillan. And McMillan, he's been setting a couple of heaters during this race.
Oh, late send from Lime Mitch. Lime Mitch had a late look at Steve Burko, and that opened the door for Savage. He was planning to have a look at Siberia, but backed out of it. And then when Lime Mitch has made the mistake, he's decided to stick his nose in there. Now they're going to run side by side through turn 8. Oh, a little bit of leading on each other. Brendan Ross nearly made it 3 wide for a brief moment, but Savage is through. That's a very, very ballsy pass through a very, very fast part of the circuit.
Battle Pack is looking very angry here, and Peter, he's gonna gazump Lime Mitch for the position. Actually, I'm looking at the replay, so that's already happened on my screen. So now that has already happened. Brendan Ross goes back to 9th, actually. So Peter got past him very quickly. So it's 3 loose.
Oh, Lime Mitch around!
He's around!
Oh, not to the same extent that we saw last year, though.
Oh, he's going to be careful here.
Tetzel and I think Ozrob, they're coming around,
they're
and
get him.
Luckily they managed to avoid that accident.
Yeah, they'll get him, and that is almost reminiscent. And Hans, you'll remember this one last year when we had. We won't have a look at the replay for this one for Lime Mitch because we caught it pretty well, but you'll remember last year the teammates Billy Dougal-Salonga and Mitch Hathaway getting together in the very early goings of a 2-race night at Phillip Island. It was back in April last year. One of them went around at the final corner, and then the other one got collected, and teammates were eliminated on the spot.
Yeah, that was a very quiet household after that because they were living together at the time. So I don't think any fabulousness was going on at the dinner table, I'll tell you that much.
No, I heard that there was basically deathly silence for the next hour or two. They basically didn't talk to each other. I don't know who was to blame for that one, whether it was the person who was on the roof and then got hit or the person that ran into the person that was on the roof. So that was, very, very interesting conversation. And we always say we like to be a fly on the wall in certain households after certain races, no doubt with teammates living in the same household, or whether it's a father and son that are very, very competitive.
Battle for the lead, guys.
Yep, you're absolutely spot on. Battle for the lead is on. And McMillan going to try the trick going around the long way of turn 1. Now Devon's going to hang with him this time.
Got it!
Leaves him the space though.
Not yet. Not over yet.
Yep. And now Will's got to feed back in. So he does precisely that. Feeds back in. He didn't want to be hung out to dry there for too long by McMillan and allow Stenberg to get back to his rear bumper. So he did the smart thing there, pulled the brake a little bit further, and then got in behind the 248 machine. So
cast our mind back to the GT3 race here. I don't remember giving Thomas McMillan any driver training on how to make.
Oh, Stenberg around! Looped it.
Around.
Got a little bit too greedy with the accelerator, and now he's doing some lawn mowing. Foley's gonna be careful! Oh, that's very close to an unsafe rejoin. That's extremely close. Nearly side-to-side contact.
I think Foley's eyes will be like dinner plates now after that, and they'll be sticking about 3 feet outside his head.
Oh, they will be. It'll be like the cartoons, you know. The eyes would have just completely left the body.
I'll tell you what's happened there. Stenny's probably just been flustered, and he's just been in his haste to get back on the road. He's just made a little mistake there.
Yep,
So
have a look at this.
Hopefully, it doesn't cost him too dearly.
Yeah, Foley. Great reactions from Brenton Foley. Saw it happening as it was unfolding, and yeah, his heart will have skipped a beat. And the word I like to use, and I think I'm about to be picked up on this in the live stream, is conniptions.
Conniptions.
And
what a word that is.
Conniptions.
Sea bomber.
Yeah, the sea bomber. Conniptions are when you do something like that's conniptions, and he would.
I think we're going to get a stairs gnawing sound repeat now.
No, we're not going to get that.
No, we're going to get that. That's going to happen. I'll get stairs very quickly.
Oh,
but McMillan, he's in the lead again at the moment, and he's about point. Actually, it's closing rapidly because Will Devonish, he looks like he's got a bit of overlap, and he's going to try and make a move. But McMillan, he's in the right spot right now.
Late send.
In the middle of the road. Will Devonish, late send from Devonish.
And a little bit of
he's got it.
Yeah.
And a little bit of contact on the way through as well, but that's all fair game. That's nothing to frown upon there. Behind them as well, Stenberg got the move done at the same spot on Foley.
Siberia. If they go off here, they're going to be miles away from anything.
Well, that's what's called Siberia because it is miles away from anything, and it's not where you want to be. But Devonish comes out.
He's nearly off.
And there's some bump and rubbing going on here. This is lap 12 of a 57-lap race, ladies and gentlemen, and these guys are banging door panels at 200 k's an hour.
Silly buggers, this isn't the time to be playing games like this.
Over and under.
Switchback by Devonish.
Whole shot through the over and under at MG corner. Fantastic.
What a sequence of corners by these guys. A little bit of rubbing, all fair game. Oh, and a bit of a send at the final corner.
He's playing him off at the corner.
Yeah, and McMillan's going to
He's redressed that.
No, he hasn't redressed it. They're running side by side to redress. You've redressed, you need to be fully behind, so I'm not sure what's happening there.
It's going to be, might be another error in the outside move by McMillan.
Okay, now we can consider that a redress.
Yeah.
But that's going to bring up some interesting debate in the drivers' briefing next time, and also if it attracts the attention. Todd Millen. He's getting the elbows out. He's going berserk. He's on a rampage, Thomas McMillan.
Now the reason for that is because that corner at Southern Loop is a bit of a double apex corner. It allowed McMillan to get underneath, and now he's gotten underneath again at turn 4. And now there's a little bit of a return serve. Hey, guess what? Stenny's had another lock up at turn 4, and now Foley's rolling his hammer again. So it's not been turn 4 has not been kind to Stenberg in the opening 13 laps. He's had 2 lockups and a looping moment as well. So it just now this is probably
Stenny. Sorry, I'm cutting you off, Steve, at every opportunity. I'm so sorry, but Stenny, he's not pretty happy with this Phillip Island circuit. He considered himself pretty lucky that he got himself the pole position, and he thought that he only just did enough. So hopefully it doesn't cause any dramas later on. Now, Steve, I'll let you go. I'll keep my mouth shut.
There you go. Well, the battle out front is still continuing. There was more over and under at turn 10, and they're going on with it again. It's just settled down for a bit. McMillan's going to have a run here, though, out of the final corner. Foley's just trailing behind Stenberg this time around. Wedding and Savage are 5th and 6th on the road. With all the goings on, they're still doing 1 minute 33 out in front.
McMillan down the inside.
Now, if I was Will Devonish, I would let McMillan go. At this point, I'd start thinking about what you're going to do pit stop sequence, and I would just let McMillan go. If he starts to hold you up, then, yeah, you can have another go at him. But I think that they're doing lap times that are going to be very, very quickly caught by Stenberg. If Stenberg can just settle down for a few moments and really start to rein these guys in, because what's going on now on lap 14 of a 57-lap race is just silly. Yeah, it's just silly, and it's not called for after this. They probably need to settle down, because look at this. The gap is starting to erode back to 3rd place very, very quickly, and this is not the time to be getting involved in a dogfight.
Red mist.
I mean, when you think about it, guys, they're saving a bit of fuel by doing this as well. So it's not all too bad doing this, but yeah, you got to calm it down a little bit. But they are saving a bit of fuel compared to the guys behind them that are charging, trying to catch up to them.
Now, guys,
Hope Simsport is Kurt Stenberg's team, so I think it's sort of like a satellite driver arrangement. So we can call them informal teammates almost.
Well, the good
But,
mates.
there is a risk.
We refer to them
There is a bit of
as good mates. Now, I do need to interrupt proceedings for a little bit here because I've been given some news in the live stream from Brian Walsh. This is something that cricket fans are not going to be too happy to hear, but it's very saddening news. We've been told that Victorian great Dean Jones has passed away aged 59. So that's a really, really sad loss for the cricketing community and Australian sport in general as McMillan goes back to the lead at turn 1. So just on behalf of everybody in the commentary box and the AMS Oz drivers, we'd like to wish the family of Dean Jones our deepest condolences at this time.
Oh, more contact for the two leaders here. They got to stop this. They got to stop it.
Yeah, it's
Halved. The gap's halved in the space of a couple of laps, so it's back to 1.25 seconds.
yeah, it's not going to end well. And look, Will's trying for the over and under here. Oh, and
Yeah,
that's a bit much. This is going to catch the eye of the stewards after this is over and done with. This is silly.
They got to stop this because this is going to involve one of them firing each other off.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely, Hans. And on top of that, not only is it going to bring Kurt Stenberg back into the battle, it's going to bring Foley in as well. These guys are doing 30.
I'm worried about this one. Oh.
These guys, last time around, did 1 minute 33.1s to Stenberg's 32 flat and Foley's 32.4, and even the guys behind them in 5th and 6th place were faster. So this is just getting really, really, really silly. It's getting to the point where if I was Will Devonish or Thomas McMillan, or even Kurt Stenberg for that matter, I'd be starting to think about 2 or 3 laps from now what you're going to do pit strategy-wise and extricate yourself from this mess.
I'd pit. If I was Stenberg, I'd pit. These guys, it looks like they're going to keep battling.
Yeah, if they're going to keep battling and send each other off, then Stenberg stands to be a good beneficiary here.
Not only that, Foley could be as well.
And Foley as well, yeah, you're right. If they do send each other off and they both end up DNFing, then Foley's going to have a rip snorter of a run here. And
we got a first pit stop.
Yeah, there was. It was saying,
Liccardo.
yeah, Liccardo's just fed on at turn 1 now. He's now gone a lap down as a result. So there was a bit of talk around how the pit strategy is going to work tonight. It's about 18 laps for a tank of fuel. We're getting numbers saying it's about 5.5 litres or so. Oh, here we go.
Oh, he's even shouldered him off. Oh, not quite. Oh, this is like very 50-50 here. Like, if anything goes wrong, this is going to be a big blow up in the steward's room. I can only imagine it.
Yeah, well, the thing is as well, it's all being caught on the broadcast, and the broadcast items are immediately reviewable. So the stewards are going to absolutely have their eyes popping out of their heads right now when it comes to reviewing after this, because there's been some really silly incidents already. It hasn't got...
This is not Dodgem car racing. This is not Dodgem car racing. This isn't demo derby. This is pretend motor racing. And I hope that this doesn't go any further because these guys, they've all raced so well so far, and I don't think it should go any further if I'm expressing my personal opinion.
Yeah. It'll take to firing somebody off the road, I think, before this will start to get looked at, and that's the one thing we don't want to see. Is someone turned around by contact or somebody off the road. Now, Foley's pulled the trigger here, guys. He's decided, I've had enough of following the guys that are going to be potentially faster than. He may come into some traffic here. It just depends on where it all pans out. So he's going to fall down the order. He probably won't go a lap down. He's probably going to try and time this gap to see where he goes.
McMillan, he's gone to the lead. He's gone to the lead again. Turn 2.
And Stenberg's trying to follow him. Stenberg tried to follow him there as well.
Yeah, we got Rossi and Liccardo. Liccardo's back in as well.
I'm wondering if Liccardo forgot to take tyres or some fuel on that particular one. So we're just seeing what's happening here. And a car going up on the jack. So that's probably tyres that have not been taken.
What a shame.
Teammates Foley and Ross pitting line astern in the top 2 bays. And that's by virtue of the fact that they had the number 1 pit stall from the team's championship last year. Now, Foley's timed this really well. I actually think he's come out onto track in clean air. So he's going to be just ahead of Rhodey. So he's got no traffic ahead. And Brendan Ross, when I look a bit further back, so Rhodey's got up to 9th. Rossi's going to come out P10. And he's going to come out in clear track too. So this has worked out well for the PBF Race Engineering Commodores.
Yeah. If I was Foley, couple qualifying laps. Just maximise that clean air, and if the two leaders, if the 3 leaders keep on doing it, he's going to.
There they go. Well, there they go. So they're gone into the pits now. So they're gone line astern to the pits. Just just looking to see if they got it stopped. Yeah, they both locked it up at the line. Foley did as well. Foley's gotten away, no penalty this time. We did see it at Sydney Motorsport Park. There was a slew of late lap drive-throughs because a number of drivers did not get down to the 40k pit speed limit in time.
It's good for me.
Yeah, it was certainly good for you. You ended up on the podium.
Yeah, second place.
So that means Burko goes through to fourth, Savage to third, and Wedding to second. So the next attention now turns to the race leader, who's on lap 18, and where he comes out. So
yeah, I'm watching Foley.
Yeah.
See where he
now
comes out.
Devonish will come lap for sure. And let's see if Wedding, ever the strategist, he will try and fuel save maximum.
Foley's going to be very close here, guys. Guys, Foley's going to be very close here. The Stenberg and McMillan are just leaving. There's Foley on the pit straight, so he's going to get Stenberg. He might get McMillan. This is going to be super tight. No, he's not going to get McMillan. And Stenberg is behind Foley, so Foley has made a gain by getting to clear air. So very smart decision to get onto pit road. He's gained a spot.
Brave that early to go for the
Steve
pit.
Burko's off.
Turns out to work.
He had a bit of an off.
Oh no, here we go.
Yep, so
Steve Burko is falling way off the back of Peter and Lewis Wedding, so not good for him.
what did he do? Did he have him off? It looks like maybe ran at Siberia somewhere, and picking up on the replay now. And Siberia is one of those corners where you can take a different line. You can take the tight line like Burko's taking here, or you can take a slightly wider line for an apex. And yeah, he's looped it. Did what Cam Rutledge did. Oh, and he's tagged the wall too. So there's going to be a little bit of rear left quarter panel damage on that FGX Falcon, but it's probably not going to affect the handling of it. It'll just be cosmetic. But that's something he's going to have to be wary of with the pit stop sequence, which he is now partaking in. And Devonish is in as
lane.
Yep, Devonish is in as well. So that sends Savage and Wedding. So they've gone into fuel saving mode. So they've been able to stretch to effectively the 1/3 distance mark. So this is going to be interesting for them. That means they've only got to stop once more, whereas a number of the other guys are going to have to stop twice.
Good idea if you're doing that, because they were buried in the field. So obviously not being able to qualify last week. So probably a smarter strategic move from them. And hopefully Peter, he can make his tyres
now
longer, because
Devonish is going to lose out here, guys. Devonish is going to lose out to McMillan, to Foley, and to Stenberg. He's going to be demoted all the way back to P4 by the time this is all done. He's come out 6th at the minute. Had a moment exiting pit lane. Have a look at his in lap. What his sector times were like on the way in. They weren't stellar. They weren't too bad either, but his in lap was a 2:24 compared to the guys ahead of him that also did the same in lap. So they've just made better fist of it on the out lap, and they've just jumped him. So qualifying laps for Stenberg and for Foley and for McMillan, and they've all made a gain over Will Devonish here. Although Will has got
the loose SimSport cars are in.
Yep.
Action in the pit. 2 loose SimSport cars are in.
Yep. So that'll
Number 89, 88.
Yep. That'll cleanse the field. Everybody will have stopped then for the very, very first time. And what is potentially going to be, well, for some guys, it's going to be a 2-stop race. By the if you're a loose SimSport fan. If you're a fan of these guys that are on the screen, they're going to need a safety car to get to a 2-stop window here. Otherwise, they're going to be splashing and dashing toward the end. Now that this has settled down here for a bit, guys, as the field cleanses, so McMillan's going to go back to the race lead here. As there's Wedding in the pits, there's Pete Savage in the pits, and they're both on the move, or Wedding's on the move, and Savage is about to be on the move now. Now that this lead pack has just started to spread out a little bit, so it's a half-second Foley to McMillan, and then another second back to Stenberg, another second and a half back to Devonish. What do you do if you will Devonish here, guys? Do you just follow Stenberg around, as Foley has a moment? Do you just follow Stenberg around for a little bit, maybe go into a bit of fuel-saving mode, try and stretch it out, maybe do something a little bit different to go off-sequence to your rivals?
Steve, I'm just thinking about the fact that Will Devonish, he was a lot closer to Stenny the last lap by, so he's probably made a mistake somewhere.
Having a look at the timing.
Oh, yeah, he's run wide. He's run wide at turn 12. So
yeah,
that's
ran
why
wide final corner.
So, what's the question again, Steve?
So the question was,
Ponder it again.
if you're Will Devonish in this situation, given you've been sort of battered from pillar to post in the opening, 19 laps, locked in close combat with Thomas McMillan and Kurt Stenberg and co, what do you do in this situation? Do you just sort of follow these guys for a little bit, maybe go into a fuel-saving mode, try and see if you can stretch it out, maybe get to that stop where you can pit and get home without having to stop for a splash and dash? Or do you stay on the strategy that you've committed to, which might see you have to do that splash and dash?
I would hazard a guess and say just save fuel, because you'll lose a lot more time with the splash and dash with the pit lane transit time. Luke, you might have a different opinion.
Nah, that's the same as you, mate. It's not good taking the risk of that. Yeah, the transit time. It's not worth it. If I was Devonish, I would fuel save.
Well, let's have a look at the lap times last time around. So McMillan 31.7, Foley 31.5. Stenberg was fastest lap of the race at 31.1, and Devonish was a 31.5. So he's still doing the same sort of lap times that these guys are doing. Doesn't look like he's driving the car as hard as well at the moment at this stage of the race. Just looks like he's staying a little bit more measured, which is probably a smart move. It just depends on what sort of sector climbs he can do. Purple first sector for Kurt Stenberg on this lap as well, and he's just really now starting to hassle the back of Brenton Foley. McMillan and Foley pretty much did identical sector times, and Devonish was a 10th quicker than those guys. Stenberg was a 2/10 quicker than the pair of them, and potentially is about to line up a move here at MG as Foley takes a defensive approach. So he's going to say to Stenny, I need you to go the long way, please. I need you to go the long way here as well, please. And he's going to leave him a little bit of space, and just going to...
barely enough space.
Barely enough space. I think Stenny just eased the throttle a little bit there and just realised he was going to run out of road a little bit too quickly.
Yeah, one car width and not a millimetre more. That's what it's all about.
Yep. And now Foley will say, I need you to go the long way again, please, at the first corner.
Sorry, 31.29 from McMillan, so he's got pace as well.
Yeah, definitely got some pace on board there. And again...
Ooh, bit of a touch from Stenberg and Foley.
Yeah, very close to
lightest of touches there.
And they've got a little bit of lap traffic here in the PBF Red Bluff Blue, which is a mouthful. The PBF Red Bluff Brewers Racing Commodore off-roadie, who's been passed by McMillan now. You can see it just there. Oh, Stenny very close. And again, Foley, defensive approach in this particular instance. I'm going to make Stenny go the long way. Now, Roadie's off. Oh, big moment for Foley. And Stenny's through in a flash. So
that was lucky there.
That was very lucky. That car got all sorts of wheel spin, jumped sideways at the critical moment. And again, that would have been a hard in the mouth stuff for Brenton Foley. Let's go on board and we'll pick this up.
A perfect time for Devonish to save a bit of fuel with these guys battling in front of him, because it looks like the pace that McMillan's going, he's going full pace. He's going to go for the splash method.
And there's the contact that resulted as a part of that as well. So very, very lucky for Brenton Foley. Just again a little too aggressive as he picked up the throttle.
Did his best to save it, though.
He did his best to save it, and I think if Stenny's car wasn't there, that car might have done maybe a half spin, but he allowed, Stenny sort of actually straightened Foley's car up, and I think Foley's just sort of thinking maybe the gig's up here, maybe he's going to try the Will Devonish trick and maybe just sit back and try and save a bit of fuel in this going, as Will goes through to P3. Foley still in the championship battle, so doesn't want to sort of give too much away at this particular juncture of the race, but this is very much like the GT3 race we had at Monza in the mid part of the year. Not so much about the guys who didn't want to lead the race, but about setting yourself up for the last little stanza. We saw in that.
Stenberg had a moment.
Yep, he's had another moment again at turn 4. So now Will's right with him, and another little lock-up going into Siberia.
They're all getting a few lockups there. Very small lockups, just a puff of blue smoke, as we'd say. But I've just noticed that Brendan Ross has gotten in front of Peter, and he's gotten in front of Lewis Wedding now. So maybe a bit of fuel saving. Oh, Lewis Wedding, there's a problem. There's a problem. He's off the road at turn 4.
Yep, we're just looking at Stenberg's lock up, and that was a very weird one too. Just carried a little bit too much speed in. That was inside front right locking, it appeared, going into turn 4. So that's a little bit unusual, and through the apex. So definitely not.
It's the second time he's had a trouble in that hairpin as well. So
and Lewis Wedding, as you said, has lost touch with Pete Savage now, and he's got Steve Burko for company.
Just watch what Lewis Wedding did. He locked the rears and pitched him off the road. So when you're on the grass...
Liccardo! Big moment for Dane Liccardo. He's gone backwards across the grass across at Lukey Heights. We've seen this in real life before. And
just misses the fence.
Yeah, just misses the fence. You have to get it going. Just rears locked. Too much rearward bias. And he's going to drive it out very, very gingerly. It was just happening in back a shot behind line Mitch. I was looking to see what he was up to there. So here we go on the replay, proper style. Avoided the grass. On the grass. So he got the rear right on the grass on the approach to Lukey Heights. Big wide line. Definitely not the usual line you want to be taking.
Steve, line Mitch is in the pits.
Yep. So that's...
Maybe he's taking his splash and dash now.
That's a possibility. Keep an eye on him for us, Hans. Let's see how long he's in the pits for. Is he taking tyres or is it just a fuel stop? No, he's in there for a bit.
He was in there for quite a while, so not sure if he was... I couldn't see if the car went up on the jacks. I was just on the external camera's view, so we'll have a look.
There he is there. So
later on in the race.
Well, let's have a look at what his outlap is, because if it's around a 2:24, then it's going to be a full service stop. No, it's a 2:11, so I think he's done a fuel stop there. Taken some tyres.
That's the splash and dash right there.
That's his splash and dash, but he's going to be working backwards now. So from here on, if he gets another 18 laps, that's going to get him up to lap 42, and then he's going to be able to get home comfortably from there. He'll only have 15 laps to run. So taking that pain now, realising that the strategy for him wasn't going to work out, having been one of the first men onto pit road, and now going to have to recovery drive this one, and hope that some of the other drivers ahead are going to take their splash and dash a little bit later on. So this is sort of flipping that strategy around the other way, rather than having a splash and dash at the end, having a splash and dash in the middle of the race. But if he's taken tyres, he's going to need to find some way to make that time up, because if you splash and dash at the end, you're going to have worn tyres, but you're going to have track position by virtue of not having as long a time down the pit lane and in your pit box. But given he's spent more time in the pit box, he's got to recoup that time somewhere on track now.
The best bet would be hoping for a safety car.
Well, if it's a safety car, it would put him in a bit of an interesting position then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He could potentially get home on this tank if he's filled it up all the way to the top, and if it's a particularly major accident and the safety car stays out for a while. But given that we've only got 15 cars tonight and plenty of room around this 4.5 kilometre circuit, fantastic facility this down on Phillip Island, just south of Melbourne. And it's they've all got their own space right now. They've all got their own real estate. 40 acres and a mule, as it were.
Well, guys, just looking at the lap times, 31.6 last lap by Will Devonish. I think our theory of fuel saving, unless he's an absolute master of fuel saving, I don't think he's taken that route with a strategy.
No, the only other option he's got there, Luke, is a little bit of lift and coast. So if I look at the lap times just gone by, so the laps you were looking at were the previous lap, the ones they've just registered, 31.9 for Stenberg, 32.3 for Devonish, and he lost most of that through the first two sectors, which I guess is where you spend most of your time, either in the slipstream or you spend your time turning. But given he's just following around after Stenberg at the moment, probably just using the draft to keep him in the game, and just using him to drag him along, and just lift and coast. We've seen Lewis Wedding do this plenty of time. A little bit of lift and coast. You'll save a little bit here. You'll get maybe an extra half lap. All going to make a difference at the end of this race, depending on where you come in for the stop, as to how long you're going to be stationary for. If we go back up to the lead of the race, not quite there. Here we go. McMillan enjoyed a pretty handy gap of about 1.5 seconds for the last lap or two. It's just come back the other way in the last, minute or so, and the guys behind him have been picking up a 10th here and a 10th there, so they've now got the gap to under 1 second.
Oh, Will Devonish, he's got a bit of overlap on Stenberg. Turn 12. Just pulls out of that one. You can't really make the pass there.
Yeah, not.
But he's going to try and set up a run for turn 1 or turn 2.
And he's a bit far back on this occasion as well, so didn't get the launching pad off of the last turn that he needed to really threaten into turn 1 here. Although having a look late, but that's a bit too late, I think, and that would have been almost reminiscent of Townsville turn 2 all over again had he have tried to pull that one off. But maybe this balance is just starting to swing the other way a little bit as these guys have just started, maybe their lap times have just started to normalise a little bit. 32.0 out front for McMillan, 32.1 for Stenberg that time around, 31.7 for Will on the previous lap. As McMillan's off the road. McMillan's off the road. Oh, and he's going to be careful. And Stenberg's off the road too. Was very nearly off the road as well. And Devonish has had the pair of them. Well, not quite because
2-for-1 deal.
It was a 2-for-1 deal for about 2 seconds. And now Stenberg goes through.
Another mistake at the hairpin.
Buyer's remorse.
Buyer's remorse?
2-for-1 deal. Couldn't really walk out the shop with that one.
Oh, and here we go. The door handle racing again is on. This time it's
wheels a bit there.
McMillan's around.
Oh, he's off!
He's off!
He's around, and Foley's going to have him here as well. McMillan's going to take out the 100-metre board.
Marker as well, so good luck trying to get into MG.
Yep. Well, you're breaking about 75 to go anyway, so it shouldn't be that bad. There's still one more board that's up.
Stenberg and
Hip and
Wheel are
shoulder.
rubbing now.
Hip and shoulder stuff here for the lead.
Let's go back to the lead. So now they're getting it on like Donkey Kong again, and McMillan finds himself in 4th place. Just overcooked it a little bit into turn 9, I believe, when he did that.
He's now on the inside. He's got the overlap.
Stenberg
He's at the
trying to hold
B-pillar.
Yep.
Stenberg's on the outside though here.
Yeah, has a high ground for turn 2 and can dictate where he wants to place the car, and just leaves enough of a gap for Will to think about putting it down the inside there, but it's not really a passing move. The car that you're trying to pass really needs to run a lot wider than that to be able to feed it in.
Good defensive driving by Stenberg to hold that inside line, coming to this hairpin.
Yep.
Devonish looking for the switchback, but can't find it.
No, not on this particular occasion.
I've just had a look at the replay. Now, Thomas McMillan, he sees Kurt and Will up ahead, just have a bit of a tardy run through there, and he's just like, yep, I'll fire this in here, and then the thing starts to steer out wide, and there's Will's car there, and Thomas, unfortunately, gets spilt, and that was lucky not to be a more massive accident than it was.
Yeah, I thought that Stenberg was going to be hit there as well for a bit because he checked up and he was on the left-hand side, yeah, and so I thought he was getting a bit of contact from there as well. There would have been fistfuls of opposite lock from the guys that were in that battle as well. But for McMillan, he's got a little bit of work to do. Brenton Foley is now in 3rd place, so top 5 or 4 of the top 5 cars still in the top 5. The big guns, as we like to call them, are in force. The only man that was in the top 5 that is currently outside that 5 is Lion Mitch, but he's on a contrary strategy compared to everybody else. So that's the only real... Sorry?
Oh, Foley. Now, I would go fuel save. I'll just go fuel saving mode.
Yeah, and this is where they've got to start thinking about the long game. Pretty much the critical lap that you can fill up and get home is going to be lap 38. So they've still got another 9 laps to reach that particular marker, and a number of them stopped before lap 19. So if you're able to get 19 laps out of a fuel tank, you're doing pretty well, which is precisely what the likes of Lewis Wedding and Pete Savage have been able to do, get that magical 19 laps. And that included, believe it or not, the formation lap as well. So they've done really well to get 19 laps out of a tank of fuel. But if you break it up into thirds, so you get lap 19, lap 38, and then you can get home to lap 57, basically on the smell of an oily rag. All these guys in the top 4 stopped before lap 19. The latest of those was Will Devonish, who stopped on lap 18. And he's having a look here at MG.
Show his nose.
Recommendation from Phillip. But this is a race
as
good as
he's
any.
on the
right
slide.
out sideways.
Yeah, he was on the slide, big time coming through turn 11. Big fistfuls of opposite lock there. Hasn't hurt his run onto the main straight too badly though. He's still within, towing distance of Kurt Stenberg, and you can see here from the onboard, just starts to make a little bit of ground, but he starts to make it too late. and by the time he gets to the braking zone, he's not got much room to work with.
Relax. He needs to not overdrive it because Kurt, he looks like he's got a good balance on the car at the moment, and he's pretty mistake-free so far after the last mistake. I should say in this stint it's pretty mistake-free. But Kurt, he's not going to give up the lead easily. And, I mean, we are sort of halfway through this race now. Oh, Kurt, bit of a mistake there, bit of a lock-up. Will tries to hang tough. Now, here, I think Will needs to take a bit of a narrower line because that was the last opportunity that Kurt had to... Oh, Kurt's wide. He's wide of the ideal line, but Kurt won't let Will pass.
Yeah, but that's a multi-line corner though as well, Hans. You can take that sort of approach and maintain your speed and still come out the other side with a bit of an advantage. Just kicked up a little bit of dust there, Kurt Stenberg, but not at the critical moment where the car was turning. It was just straight for a few seconds. And again,
just gonna have a look.
Another look.
Not too close.
No, not too close this time.
If I were Will, if I saw the first time that someone centered on the inside of me at Siberia, I would block that off straight away. But obviously he's not got that, maybe his setup is not perhaps permitting him to take that narrow line through there.
And notice that they're carrying a little bit of brake through that corner as well at turn 12. Now some guys do carry a bit of brake through that corner just to settle the nose at the front of the car, and some guys will elect not to carry a brake, but it's worked well for Will this time. So he's going to go to the lead at turn 1. Instead, he's still got a bit of overlap here, so he's got to leave some racing room at turn 2, and instead he bailed out of it. So he decided that discretion... Oh, there's a bit of a surge.
Oh.
A little bit of
I don't think he intended to do that.
No, I don't think so either. But
probably just closed up at the wrong moment in time, but no harm, no foul. They catch it and move on.
That's right. Just looking a bit further down, these guys are coming up to some traffic. Foley's still holding off Thomas McMillan for P3 and 4. As Liccardo loops it ahead of these guys. He's ahead. Well, that's resolved an issue that was going to come about in probably about another 2 laps. So the leaders have all gone through. So Liccardo, as much as he's done the... he's probably going to be filthy with himself for having that caught on the broadcast. He's going to be... He's at least done the right thing by not hastily rejoining the circuit. We
won't hold it against him. He's put in some good performances lately.
And he's an up-and-coming youngster, so we've got to give him some credit. And he is learning, I think, as well, to drive without the traction control and stuff too. So he's
still on his training wheels, the young fella.
Yeah, he still is.
AMS.
Little bit of a lock-up at MG for Will Devonish. And these two press on lap 31. Elsewhere behind these guys, Pete Savage is all on his own cement in 5th place. So Foley's come in at lap 29. So Foley is decided he's got to do it on 3 stops. So that's interesting. Wedding, Burko and Brendan Ross were all pretty close together. Brendan Ross actually was ahead of Steve Burko a lap ago and has had a bit of a moment. So that means that loose SimSport cars occupy positions 5, 6 and 7.
Dane's the fence. He's in
on
the main straight.
Yeah, massive moment coming off of the final corner, and he's lost a bonnet, and that is a common thing. Let's have a look. If I think I know what's happened here, has he just gone a bit wide, or he was a bit wide at the penultimate corner? Has he gotten on the ripple strip and laid it out?
He's gone way out over the ripple strip. He's gone into the gravel.
Oh yeah.
And when he's trying to rejoin, it's just.
And car runch. Oh, wow.
In the air.
Very lucky not to destroy an engine in that car, but it'll have a whole bunch of left-hand down, I'd imagine. I've seen this happen before, not to that extent, but last year at Island Magic, there was a couple of GT3 cars that decided to go a bit too far out onto the ripple strip. Not as far as Dane went then, but the ripple strip is very, very slippery on the back side, and I think it turned a Lamborghini Huracan Performance GT3 car around and basically went arse end first into the pit lane fence. Did quite an awful amount of damage, and that's a little bit, what Dane's done is a little bit worse than that. But, yeah, he's having all sorts of control problems here at the minute, and he's having them right in front of Pete Savage. So
yeah, he's going to park it. He's got
to get in. He's got to get in and get some damage done, and that's not good. And the brake marker board is gone. So
now we're flying blind into turn 10.
Yeah, but now flying blind to MG, and he's got to be careful here just to let these guys go through.
If you got a handling car like that, you might as well park it because you're creating a danger for lap cars and other cars on the circuit.
Yeah, and it's not the easiest of circuits to learn how to drive either as well at short notice. So
Yeah.
he's got to he'll get into the lane here, I think. He's got no choice. And it's probably the sensible thing to do, if I'm being honest with you. And, yeah, he's taking the advice, and in he comes. Just take it easy,
Good
get
job.
it into the lane, see if you can get the damage repaired, and then just see how it feels. Got to get it stopped.
Oh, he's going to be in the fence!
And
Yep.
he'll get a pit lane speeding penalty for that as well.
Yeah,
So-
I'll probably just park it at this point.
Yep.
No use plugging on.
No, I agree.
Meanwhile, race at the front of the field, Kurt Stenberg, Will Devenish. Bit of a bump draft there, running through Hayshed.
Now, the interesting part in this equation is where Brenton Foley's going to feed out. So he's fed out into 8th place. So he's behind Brendan Ross at the moment. But again, going a slightly different strategy. Again, so there's 3 different strategies in play here. Or actually, if you can probably even say there's 4. So there's the loose sim sport strategy, which is split the race into thirds. There's the line Mitch strategy of coming in early, doing a splash and dash in the middle, and then trying to get to a critical lap and get home. There's Brenton Foley, who's gone before the next race, and there's the pit lane speeding penalty for Liccardo we spoke about. There's the Brenton Foley strategy, which is not quite a splash and dash, but trying to shorten the next fuel stop. And then there's these guys who are probably going to be a lap or 2 short, might have to splash and dash at the end.
Yeah,
Sorry,
33-4 for Thomas McMillan. And you know the top 2 are battling, and he's not having any inroads on him. So I think he must be fuel saving, surely.
Well, after that recovery that he had to make from the spin,
Stenberg down the inside.
Yep,
And he can't quite get it stopped.
Yeah, overcooked it, and Devenish will have him back through on the inside here. Leaves him a bit of room, and they'll argue
He's
the point.
going to send it at Siberia.
They'll argue the point up to
And-
Siberia, and
And
Stenberg will get
Martley
it.
pulls out of that one.
Yeah. Interesting note about turn 4, guys. Of course, in many years gone by, turn 4 wasn't what it was today. The circuit actually went on at that little escape road at turn 4, which is now the escape road that the V8 Supercars have to use if they overcommit at turn 4. And turn 4 actually had a different name back then. It's known as Honda today, but back then it was actually known as Repco when they had some naming rights. And turn 5, which was Will Devenish decides to come in, turn 5 didn't exist. As turn 4 came all the way in, effectively it turned into a 180-degree sort of right-hander, and then it sort of fed dead straight into Siberia. So that's why they sort of just turn 5 as turn 5, because it didn't exist back in 1956, and it pretty much almost doesn't exist now.
Inconsequential corner, they're called. But Will Devenish in the pits. See if he takes fuel and tyres. He's going to take fuel and tyres. Yes, he will.
Yep, and McMillan's gone through as well.
And Liccardo serves his drive-through penalty.
And the next man we're going to be interested in is Pete Savage. So he's gone through. Now, Dane Liccardo's on the move out of the lane, so he's just off to the
Check
right
for
of screen
Foley
there.
as well.
Yep, and Foley's coming around the final corner now. As Devenish is still in the lane. Wedding's gone through. Burko's gone through. There's Wills. Now, Will's going to be safe here. So Foley's then just coming
Wow,
onto the main
surprised.
straight now. There he is. Just you see the car just dipping down and back a shot. So Will's been able to make that work pretty well for him. Now, that's lap 35. So he's taken, again, the same sort of pain that Foley's taken early here. And, well, what do you do if you're Kurt Stenberg now? This is sort of making everybody think about whether or not they can actually make it on 2 stops, or whether they're going to have to do a third. Let's see what Stenberg's lap times are if he's pressing on.
He's in.
He's in, so he couldn't get the job done. So these two are probably going to be coming out on track about the same spot where they were when they, about a lap or 2 ago. Stenberg down to the line, and McMillan in too. So these guys are on the same sequence here. Now, McMillan was pretty much right up to the pit lane line there, and just a little bit of a lock-up. He shouldn't get a penalty for that. And Stenberg was stopped well and truly before the line, actually.
Yeah, he was quite conservative, I noticed too.
Ricardo's in the fence again. He's at the fence on the exit of MG.
On the commitment
Yep,
line, so
he
he
is.
might lose a bit.
And that was just ahead of Devenish as well. So Devenish has managed to slip through without incident, as now Pete Savage will lead the race. Now, this will be interesting to see where Pete Savage and Lewis Wedding and, to a degree, Steve Burko, there he goes. where they're going to end up.
Wow, Devonish, easy pickings for Devonish. He's way into the lead of the race.
And he's got a rear gunner too. Well, he's got Cam Rutledge ahead. Now Cam's a lap down, so he'll be on the phone to Cam Rutledge very quickly, just saying, just a reminder, mate, I'm on a hot lap. Amount of times. Oh, there goes Liccardo straight on at turn 1, guys. And yeah, just
struggling.
Struggling now. No brakes. I think that car's almost got 0 brakes at the moment.
Yeah, Dane's got to park it here. I don't think it's worth going on in the race. 24 laps to go.
This is going for a test session. I don't think there's any point, really.
We've just got to get some laps under his belt. Just got to, as we like to say, Hans, just, taper the expectations a little bit. Just try and get back into a groove. Just maybe learn to what it's like to drive with a car that's probably got a little bit of steering damage, because you might need it coming up to an event like the Bathurst 500 in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just get used to the car when it's not operating in the optimum conditions, but you should also be mindful that you're not going to come right out, literally first race ever sim racing, and you're going to be Craig Lowndes or Mark Scaife or anyone like that. So you just got to be gentle with it. Easy does it, as we like to say.
Yep, that's right, mate.
Oh, he's in the fence. He's in the fence again at Hayshed.
At Lukey Heights again, same as what he's done
and
before.
He's lost the wheel.
All right,
he's lost the wheel now.
He's lost the wheel. Yeah, that's the end of the game.
It's game over. It's game over for Dano.
All over Red Rover for young Dane. Hopefully you can get the car extricated from the fence there quickly, because you don't want to take away a good passing opportunity.
Now, Lime Mitch has been on pit road again here, guys, and he's come out. He's a lap down, of course, but he's ahead of third place Steve Burko and Will Devonish, who's managed to get past Cam Rutledge. They're sort of about 10 or so seconds behind Pete Savage at the moment. But that's an interesting thing for Lime Mitch. He hasn't been able to get that done. And Devonish is actually making the move on Burko down at turn 4. So that was actually a pretty easy pass in the end. And Lime Mitch being very compliant, letting Steve Burko go through as well.
Now, I think Burko's going to pit this lap because he's got the wrench just above his position marker. And we should expect him to come in this lap.
Okay, so that means that he's on a slightly different strategy compared to his teammates in Pete Savage and Lewis Wedding. We expect them to go at least another 2 laps. Pete Savage, good opportunity to give our formal congratulations to him on securing the GT3 Sprint Series crown 2 nights ago on Tuesday night by a solitary point from Will Devonish. So that was a cracking last round of racing. It was going to go down to the very final race of a 2-race night. Qualifying for Will Devonish did not go the way that he wanted to for that second race, and he had to do it all from the rear of grid, and it was a bridge too far for him to cross. And Savage came from 9 points behind on the night to snatch victory in both races, with Will taking second in both races, and therefore accrued 10 points more than Will and took the title by a solitary point. So congrats to Pete Savage on his very, very first AMS Oz title. I'm sure a couple more still in the future for him.
Should also note that we've already done the championship gala dinner for this GT3 Sprint Series, and as part of that is the Champions Roast, and we've had a lot of fun with that, hanging all sorts of things on young Pete Savage, the old Perth boy, and what a deserving champion he was in the GT3 Sprint Series. The races that he was able to turn up to, he drove absolutely faultlessly, didn't he?
Absolutely top draw racing as well from everybody in that field. It was a different series compared to what we were used to seeing, and it delivered some really, really, I wouldn't say unusual racing, but stuff that we weren't expecting to see, and some fantastic finishes to boot. Right, Savage in. So he's in a lap earlier. Now, what's Wedding doing? And he's in 2. Okay, so this is interesting. So this is actually, no, you're right. Sorry, my bad. This is actually lap 38. I was just looking at the lap count doing it right. So they're on sequence.
Can we do maths?
Sorry?
Can we do maths? 19 times 2 is 38.
Yeah, no, I was just looking at something else for a minute and going, 19 times 2 is 38. So we are on sequence. There go the now effective race leader of Will Devonish. So he's got a fair bit of margin here over Brenton Foley. Where's Stenberg in all of this? What's happened to Stenny?
Stenberg's falling.
He's falling down the radar. What?
What's happening here?
33.7 last lap.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I've got a timing glitch or something going on. No, there we go. As I was cycling through, I was looking for him on the screen, and I thought to myself, he's falling down the order, but no, it was just as the guys were coming into the pits that was a bit of a problem. So I missed the fact he was behind Brenton Foley. So I thought to myself, oh, hang on, please don't tell me our championship leader's fallen down the order. No, he hasn't, but he's got a PBF VF Commodore that he needs to contend with right now. And, Foley just parks it, drives straight down the middle of the road. Big defensive move by Foley.
Both committed.
Yeah, they both were committed. They were both on the lock stops there, both locked up. So Foley committed to his line, basically drove it out to the middle of the track, didn't assume the racing line. That's fair. And Stenny had nowhere to go. He had to just fall in behind and hope that Foley was going to make a meal of it at turn 4, which he did, but Stenny did the same thing. So it's as you were, gentlemen. And
you note that when you lock the rears in these cars, it actually pitches the body in all sorts of ways. And then when you've got one of the front wheels unloaded, it will lock that wheel. So that was why we were seeing the lockups late in the stop. The rears were just chirping, then the fronts would start to lock, and that just sends you off the road.
Now we need to look at the lap times here, guys. So Stenberg's last lap around was a 31.3, McMillan a 31.4, Foley a 32.5. We'll get a readout as they cross the line this time around. A 32 flat for Will, he's just completed. So Foley into a 34.0, Stenny a 32.8, McMillan a 31.248. That's his best lap of the night. So pulling it out on lap 39 there. So a couple of laps removed from the pit stop. Starting to pump in the heaters here. And he's going to start to catch these guys very, very quickly, and could make it a 3-car battle for the last 2 steps on the podium. Now,
we'll be coming up to traffic now. Sorry, Steve.
Yep, I was about to say the same thing. They've got Cam Rutledge, they've got Rhodey, they've got Lime Mitch all ahead of them. And the important thing for Will Devonish is he's cleared all 3 of them. And Termo as well's in there too. So Will's gotten past all 4 of those guys very, very quickly, and is doing pretty well out in front now, just setting his own pace. And this is something that we've been critical of Will for a while about the get there itis argument. But when he's in clear air, he can find his rhythm very, very quickly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Once he's in clear air, and if he's not overdriving the car, he's doing a good job. But sometimes we have seen Will on occasion when he's overdriving the car, he just makes a couple of mistakes even when he's in clear air. So he just needs to be, like you said, Steve, when he's in clear air he's a lot better, but also he needs to have a cool head on board and make sure he's not lighting anything up.
Stenberg harassing Foley out of turn 12 here. And he's going to get a run here. Oh, look at this. We're on board here. It looks like he's almost just hit a brick wall coming down the front straight. He cannot get the straight line speed to get around Foley. A little bit of door rubbing as they go through one.
And inside line.
Yeah, he's got
turn 2.
Yep, he sure does.
Done.
Yep, got it consolidated at turn 2. So, just for a moment, we're on board with Stenberg. When he pulled out of the slipstream, it's almost like he just ran into a bit of a force that said, "Nope, I'm not going to let you go any further than this," and just sort of struggled to have enough overlap. Just like the man who stops them from crossing the bridge in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. He said, "Those who want to pass by me will have to answer these questions 3." And, the only question that really needed answering was, can I go around the outside of turn 1? And the answer was yes.
Well, the answer was first no, then it became yes. With a bit of persuasion, a bit of door handle persuasion, as we like to. Rutledge.
Yeah, very awkward. Yeah, very awkward for Foley coming through Hayshed. Now, on the topic of the Hayshed, gentlemen, there's one comment that I made last week during the hot lap. The Hayshed in real life doesn't actually exist anymore. It's been gone since July of 2019. It actually was not a hayshed at all to begin with. It was a shearing shed, and it was just used to store hay throughout a lot of the course of its latter years of life. And they did start to dismantle it in the early 2000s just due to getting different facilities for everything that they were storing there. They've got some containers and that in a nearby area. And then last year, the reason they pulled it down was due to safety reasons and damage. So they couldn't actually continue to have it there. It was a bit of an insurance risk.
He sent Foley.
Yeah, a bit of a
He's
risk.
just giving him a bump. Turn 2.
Yep, we were watching that one on the broadcast just as we were talking about the hay shed, and I think that's a bit of a bump and run there. I think Foley probably has a little bit of a right to feel aggrieved there. And McMillan now through to P3, and does Foley return it, or Foley gives him a lift?
He doesn't. He does actually. I was
Bit
just
of a
like,
love
he's
tap.
going to give him a serve for sure, but that was more a love tap.
Yeah, that was a love tap. And
It's more a love tap. Now we're going back into Dodgem car.
Oh,
racing,
right
boys.
outside
Yeah,
by
we are.
McMillan
yeah,
on the exit there.
now Foley just needs to be careful, I think, here. McMillan has clearly had the faster pace. He's been catching him very, very quickly, and now Foley needs to use that to good effect. He needs to stay within good striking distance and then use a slipstream down the front straight, because McMillan is going to very, very quickly range up onto the back of Kurt Stenberg if he keeps putting these sorts of lap times in. Although last time around it was the other way around, Kurt Stenberg 0.2 of a second quicker. And all the traffic has worked out beautifully for Will Devonish. He's got a 14.5 second lead, whereas Stenberg, McMillan and Foley have had to spend the better part of the last 2 or 3 laps clearing that traffic and each other, and now the gap is getting close to 15. So it's a nice handy buffer for Will. He can afford to dictate when he wants to come in for a stop here, but he'll be planning it out in his head. Just looking at the track map, I'm looking to see where he would feed in if he was to do it. He would probably come out somewhere around where Peter Savage and Lewis Wedding and Steve Burko are. He's going to have a shorter stop, mind you, as well, so he may also potentially come out into some clear air. Just doing our numbers on the pit lane sequences as well, just to see how long you're actually stationary in the pit lane for, if we can get our graphic to come up on here. So it's about a 50 or so second, let's assume 50 seconds to get onto pit road, get a full tank of fuel and tyres, and get off pit road and into turn 1. If you're doing a shorter stop, what do we assume the transit time and everything's going to be, guys? Do we assume it's probably going to be about 35 seconds if you're not doing tyres and only a splash and dash?
35 sounds about right.
Okay, so that probably will mean that if he was to pull the trigger, he would fall back somewhere. Actually, he would come into clear air. If Will Devonish pitted now, he would be in clear air ahead of Pete Savage. Even if it was a 50-second stop, he would still be clear of Pete Savage by about 2 or 3 seconds on current lap pace.
So it seems like blazing on as fast as you can, regardless of fuel, seems to have worked for Will Devonish if he can keep this together. And we're coming to the closing stage of the race now. Lap 44 of 57. 13 laps to go. Ooh, Will Devonish, just a bit of a lock-up going into Honda corner.
Yep.
That's to make sure he doesn't give up too much of the deficit back.
First real mistake.
Quicker on that lap.
Yeah, first real mistake
As
we've
well.
seen down there tonight from Will. Now, the other part that we do need to think about is where Wedding and Pete Savage are going to feed into all of this. So right now, they are just over 50 seconds behind the race leader, but you need to subtract about 15 seconds off of that right now, because that's where we are with Kurt Stenberg. So that gets you down to about 35. So they are within striking distance of passing these guys once they have to come in for their final stop, because just remember, they've already done their 2 stops. They can get home from here, but they're going to be touch and go with the podium getters. One of them very well may sneak on, or may very well sneak onto the podium.
Especially if anything goes wrong for the main protagonists in this race so far, probably the top 4 cars, then definitely Peter and Lewis, they'll be there to capitalise.
Bit of a battle between Turmo and Lime Mitch behind Thomas McMillan here on his track. We just need to cycle up to pick them up, and Turmo's going to have a bit of a lunge here into turn 1. And no, just on the anchors a little bit too early. Lime Mitch goes right around the outside. Now, I did hear the pit stop sequence bell go off, and I believe that is for no, it's for Brenton Foley. So Foley's come in for his final stop, and that's from 4th place.
Good idea to do so, considering that McMillan will probably need to make a splash and dash as well.
So we're just keeping an eye on where 5th place man Pete Savage and 6th place man Lewis Wedding are. They've gone through, so they've rounded up Brenton Foley, so he's going to have some work to do. as he comes out of the lane now. So he's going to come out ahead of Steve Burko, but he's going to be about 7 or so, roughly 7 seconds down on Wedding for 5th place. So how quickly can Foley catch them? Or can he catch them at all? That's the next question. All right, let's pick up a couple of guys in the field, see how they've been doing over the course of their night. Let's have a look at Ozrob. So he started on the back of the grid, down at about, what's he there? So add 5 to that. That means that he started in 13th place, and he's moved up to 5th. Of course, one of those is via the retirement of Dane Liccardo, but he's going along pretty well. We haven't seen too many mistakes from him. This is the first time I think we've actually seen him in Supercars since 2018, if memory serves me correctly. But
Wow.
he's he didn't run at all last year in Super 2. We've seen him applying most of his trade in AMS Oz in GT3s. And he's also had done a couple of guest appearances in ATCC as well. But good to see him back behind the wheel. We haven't seen him for a little while in AMS Oz, so good to see a couple
Bit
of
of an iRacer as well, Ozrob.
Yeah, he's...
I've seen him in a few iRacing test sessions. So.
Yeah, he's been in with the JP's SimShed squad, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah. So yeah, good to see him doing well on AMS.
And he's always been one of the guys that's been pretty fair and raced pretty hard and pretty fair with a lot of guys, and had some mixed bag of results in GT3s, but he did pretty well in the World Series earlier this year. Didn't contest the Sprint Series, but he did run a couple of races in the World Series in the Wedding Crash, the Gravel Rash Racing Lamborghinis, which Steve Bolger promptly won that series. And he is racing in the same squadron, the CRE squadron, as Will Devonish, and yet again, he'll be on the phone to Will, just saying, just let me through when you get an opportunity, please, mate. That'd be great. And looks like it might happen here on the front straight. And yep, it is. Team orders.
Job.
Very good job. And the other one that we have a look at here is on cue. Coming in for his final stop is Matt Cecil, one of the Super 2 runners.
Good to see. Good to see Matt Cecil having a run tonight. We've seen him in a number of series. Seen him in AMS Oz ATCC. We've also seen him in the Super 2 series, and he did get a couple of race wins as well. So never discount Matt Cecil when there's a reverse grid race on and he starts on pole or near the front of the field. He'll carve through the field pretty quickly and put in a good performance because he is a pretty hot operator. And hopefully we get to see him make a few more Supercars appearances in the future.
Cam Rutledge is in now as well, so final sequence of stops for most of the field now, guys. So the only ones, big lock up for Brendan Ross there just ahead of Lime Mitch. The only drivers that we do expect to come in again will be the top 3, Devonish, Stenberg and McMillan. We expect Pete Savage and Lewis Wedding to press on. And, a bit twitchy for Brendan Ross. And there'll be a couple of others a bit further down the order as well that do need to come in and stop again. Let's resume proceedings with second place man Kurt Stenberg. Now
is in the pits.
And you're spot on. So final stop for the race leader. Well in control this time. Not like Sydney Motorsport Park last time out where he overshot the pit lane entry and got himself a late race penalty. He's in the lane. So Stenberg will assume the race lead here. McMillan will go through to second. And a couple of lap cars, and Will come out, I think, in some clean air if I'm looking at the markers here. He's going to be targeting coming out just ahead of Rhodey, as we've also got 10th place man Lime Mitch is coming in. That's 4 stops for Lime Mitch tonight, guys.
Yeah, we were talking him up in the pre-race and also last week, but unfortunately these longer races don't really seem to suit young Mitchell.
Yep.
And hopefully, I mean, like we said, he's a star of the future as well, so he's pretty much a star now, especially with his runs in GT3.
Yep.
And he did get the win last night in AMS Oz ATCC.
And Devonish has timed his run pretty well as well. Got out precisely where I said he was going to get out of, just ahead of Rhodey. So that's really good timing, really good pit strategy from Will Devonish. So he can now press onto the flag. And
I'm going to expect Stenberg and McMillan to come in this lap.
Yeah, I would hazard a guess and say you're probably right, Hans. And it certainly looks that way from our graphic at the bottom there, with the wrench signifying they're going to be coming in for a stop. Now, the real question becomes, how does this affect the loose sim sport guys? Can they get in amongst it? At the moment, they are, what is that on the math there, about 16 seconds behind Pete Savage. Oh, sorry, and these guys were about 13 seconds, or Stenberg was about 13 seconds behind Will when they came in, when Will came in for his stop. Oh, McMillan locked it up just behind at the pit entry as well. Might be very close to being stung there.
Second time he's been really committed into there.
Yep, let's go and have a look at that on the replay. Let's go on board with McMillan on the run into pit lane. We'll go for the roof cam. And yeah, he was super committed. Oh, right out to the grass as well. So he had a little bit of garbage on those tyres. And oh no, he's gone. I think he's gone, guys. I think that's a pit lane speeding penalty. There it is. Race control issues a pit lane speeding penalty for Thomas McMillan. I thought it didn't look right on the broadcast, and I was spot on. So McMillan is going to drop out of the top 3.
That sort of thing. It's a pressure moment. You've got to be calculated. And it's risk versus reward, and he's got the risk and the consequence.
He didn't have any real reward to gain by taking the risk, though. That's the problem. Like, he was always going to come out on the road behind Kurt Stenberg, and he was always going to come out ahead of this guy, by the looks of things, Pete Savage. He really didn't need to do that, but now he's going to tour the lane. It's going to put Pete Savage on the podium, and, well, Hans, we'd like to cause big pressure circumstances, and failed the pressure test.
Yeah, unfortunate for McMillan. I think that really throws away a good result for Thomas. And
it absolutely does.
He was going to get on the podium, and definitely a post-race interview, which was going to be very interesting. But also the number 248 BB Commodore, unfortunately, it's not to be tonight for Thomas. But he did put in a good showing, I should say. He put in a great showing tonight, and again,
a bit of end.
Yeah, a bit of end, arguably, yes.
One of his best drives, probably the best drive we've seen of him. Oh, Roadie's having a bit of a lag moment. One of his best drives that we've seen since Albert Park, where he was right in the mix with Kurt Stenberg up until the bitter end of race 1. Didn't finish race 2. New race lap record for Will Devonish, 131.13. So look at that, 1-3-1-3-1-3. Yeah, there's a lot of 1s and 3s on that one.
4 tenths away from the outright fastest time of the whole sort of session.
Yeah, so it was the fastest lap, it was Kurt Stenberg's marker in qualifying last week, 30.791. So getting up with that sort of pace at the moment, I mean, he doesn't need to be doing that sort of pace, but blazing along and happy as a pig in shit, if I can say that on this broadcast.
That lap time is unbelievable. That is nearly 1 second quicker than the race pace this time last year. Unbelievable.
Although you know what's happening right now, Kurt Stenberg's responding. He's just gone purple in Sector 1 to the tune of, he's a tenth quicker than Will last time around. And the gap's only 6 or so seconds. So maybe Will's taken a little bit more fuel on board, or maybe he bought a bit of an insurance policy in that last stop and maybe took a set of maybe either a set of tyres or 2 rears or something, because the gap was a lot larger. It was 13 seconds at the stops. Now it's half that, and Will responds back with a purple middle sector, and then matched by Stenberg, who's gone purple again, 34.9. Stenberg's on track to break the 1:31, 1 minute 31 here quite comfortably in race trim. So he wants that fastest lap back. Will's probably going to set a quick lap here, and he does. So
Stenberg has relatively new tyres on as well, so
31 flat.
31 flat for Will. 30.5 for Stenberg. Blows the qualifying marker out of the water, if you don't mind.
See, we're in the stage where we like to call the happy hour. The track's nice and rubbered up, late in the day, pretty low fuel, new tyres, and yeah, we're seeing some heaters, as we like to call it right now.
Who would have thought that the race lap record would be quicker than the qualifying record? That's unbelievable.
Well, we used to see that when we had the one-shot or the 2-lap dash qualifying last year in Super 2. The race lap records were always quicker.
Sorry, Steve. I just picked up that maybe Will's locked it up a little bit. Yeah. Oh, no, it wasn't too bad. I just saw a lot of smoke on my screen and thought that he made a mistake.
Yeah, you just got to drive it straight from now on. Just keep it pointing the right direction, and it'll all be good. Thomas McMillan has served his drive-through penalty. He has come out in 6th place, so he's behind Pete Savage, who's now on the podium. Will Devonish is obviously in the lead from Stenberg, and then Wedding in 4th, Foley in 5th, and then McMillan has come out ahead of Burko. So can Burko maybe make a late charge for P6 potentially here?
Let's just watch Foley here because he's in the 31s. He's a second quicker than the pair of the loose Simsport guys. So we'll be looking for him to make a late charge to hopefully get back on that podium that he lost during the pit stops.
Well, the podium positions may not be over and done with yet, as you rightly alluded to. So
Stenberg 136.67 on the last lap by. So, gee, he's really laying them down.
Yeah, and Wills was a 1:31.2, so this is a late charge from Stenberg. He's got 6 laps and he's got 5.7 seconds to make up, so don't think this is over and done with yet. If those lap times stay the way they are, it's going to be very, very close at the line, so I'm going to keep an eye out of that one. Now, the podium position for 3rd, as you alluded to just there, Luke, may not be over and done with just yet. Pete Savage, currently the 3rd place man. Lewis Wedding was quicker last time around, 4th place to the tune of 2/10, and Foley was 8/10 and 6/10 quicker than the pair of them respectively, so Foley's really on a charge here.
Yep.
That gap between Will Devenish and Kurt Stenberg, it's coming down hand over fist right now because Kurt Stenberg is laying some absolute heaters, and I tell you what, I reckon he's going to get past him. He might get past him if this keeps continuing.
Yeah, well, the question becomes that what happened at the pit sequence not too long ago. What did Will actually do? Did he overfuel the car? Did he do something that he needed that he didn't actually need to do because the gap had halved after the pit stops, and he's going to have a real fight on his hands if he's not careful. Stenberg, purple sector 1, pretty decent sector 2 at a 35 flat. He is nailing every single bit of this Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, and doesn't get the quickest lap that time around, second quicker still than Devenish. So that gap is coming down hand over fist.
We've got a race on our hands, lads.
We do. Where's he making all this time? So last time around, 5/10 sector 1, 6/10 sector 2, pretty evenly matched through sector 3. They're pretty much almost spot on each other's marker. Will was only a hair quicker, but he is making gains like you wouldn't believe right now. Oh, what's Brendan Ross doing? He's having a bit of a lock up there into turn 4. And, I reckon he's maybe carrying a bit of damage there. He's got a very ill-handling race car, so Stenberg will have to be pretty careful here.
Pretty unbelievable, actually, that he's able to lay down these.
Lewis is going to block. So, Foley's got to be patient here. He knows he has the car
Wedding's
speed.
around! Gone! Wedding off at turn 4, loops the car. There goes a potential podium shot.
That's terrible.
That is a disaster for Wedding, and just super.
Can only feel for the guy. He nailed everything.
Super committed.
He nailed it all down in terms of strategy.
So here it was, and there's Foley. So Foley was getting menacing. Put the pressure on, tried to go the other way around. Oh, big lock up from the pair of them. Oh, they were both sideways. Foley was sort of partially sideways too, but Wedding was the worst of the pair. He was jumped sideways. He couldn't catch the lock fast enough, and she went back the other way, and it was good night, nurse.
Right out sideways, synchronised.
Now, what can Foley do about Pete Savage? He's only 2 seconds up the road, so there's a podium still beckons for Brenton Foley here. The gap in front has stabilised a little bit. Stenberg only 4/10 of a second quicker that last time around. So Will has started to stem the bleeding just a little bit as we're on lap 54. So 3 3/4 laps to go for the field. Top 2 definitely not set. 3rd place is definitely not secure. And Wedding is probably going to have a bit of a fight on his hands, I think, maybe from a late charge from McMillan to get back to P5. He's still in the hunt there as well.
This enthralling lap time battle between Stenberg and Will Devenish, because it's now under 4 seconds the lead. Can you believe it? And there's only 3 laps remaining in this motor race. 250 Ks later on. Who would have thought it would come down to a matter of seconds?
And the sun's starting to set here as well, so the time and the sun in the sky probably starting to play a little bit of havoc with the drivers, I think, as well, just as the change in light means the racetrack gets a little bit cooler. on the rubbered up racetrack, as Luke said before, it's the happy hour.
Yep.
Times that time around, so Stenberg a 1:30.9, Devonish a 1:30.3, so similar lap times to the lap before. So if they continue to do these sorts of lap times for the next 3 laps, we'll be safe, but he cannot afford a single mistake.
Yeah, I have a feeling he saved his tyres here for this last push, because we're seeing him setting, 31.8s, 31.7s, but now he's, it's 31.3s, 31.4s. So I think he's done well to save his tyres here. Stenberg, it's not like he's slowing down, but he's dropped off from his pace that he was setting before.
Yeah, he's still losing time in each sector, but it's nowhere near the hemorrhaging that he was, or tough time that he was hemorrhaging last time around when it was getting in the realms of 7/10 of a second difference in a lap time. 1 second a lap time difference. That's all sort of been, band-aided for the moment, and he's just holding his own at the moment. So we get an update here at the next split. Goes from 3.8 to just under 3.6, so it's pretty much limited to about 0.2 of a second per sector, and they're pretty evenly matched through sector 3 most of the time, which is the shortest sector on the circuit, which is basically the MG and the final 2 corners, and then the run to the start-finish line. A bit of a sideways moment there for Stenberg as he tries to apply the power. 30.2 for Devonish that time around. 30.8 for Stenberg. So, again, only a 0.4 of a second disparity in the lap times of 2 laps to run. And
I can't believe that Kurt is able to be in the 30s on old tyres now. Those tyres are probably looking a bit tired, but I didn't mean that pun actually. They're looking a bit. They've seen their best days, we'll put it that way, those tyres, but Kurt Stenberg is still dragging some lap time out of it. Fantastic.
Well, we saw this at Sydney Motorsport Park too, didn't we, Hans? Very late in the stint, he was coming up to the pit stops. He was able to just maintain his pace so well and, really marched away with that one. It was a big win in the end, over 45 seconds. And, it's a circuit that he's very familiar with and he's done a lot of laps at, but his tyre life and his tyre preservation in previous longer distance races, the 200k races, have been very, very good. And it was just a few little... big sideways moment, right out sideways coming through Hayshed.
Disastrous, but he managed to keep it on the black stuff. And that gap is probably maintained about the same 3.5 second gap to the leader. But Kurt, he's gone down swinging. You can say that much.
Now, have a look at this at the moment, guys, as they come around to start the final lap. Devonish has got margin at the moment. We go back to this battle, 3rd and 4th place. Definitely not safe. Foley is going to probably have a lunge somewhere late in the lap. Also, McMillan and Wedding, this is not over either for 5th and 6th. So, Lewis, we said, he's got a real fight on his hands here, and he certainly has got his hands full with just over a lap to run, but he's putting the car in all the right places at the moment. Oh, and a bit of a punt, and no, not quite a punt, bit of Morse code rather on the rear bumper of Lewis Wedding. That'll be a bit of a wake-up call. And a bit further up,
Foley's on 3rd.
Yep, here he goes. So Foley's going to get the job done around the outside. Can he hold it through 1? No, Savage is going to fight it back. So, and now forces Foley the long way around. Is the over and under on? No, Savage is awake to it, and he parks it. More Morse code.
Probably not the right moment of the corner to do that.
No, definitely not. Next passing opportunity is turn 4.
Yeah. McMillan, meanwhile, has gone in front of Wedding.
Yep, he's got that job done. Back a shot, so he got that move done down at turn 1. Savage having to defend really aggressively here from Brenton Foley. We will join our race leader, but we'll keep an eye in the background on this other battle that's unfolding. They're still running side by side through Siberia. Last week, we said Will has quite often this year been the bridesmaid and never the bride, and he needed to pull one back. And he's done precisely that. And behind them, Foley and Savage are off.
Foley's off.
They're off the road. Devonish is going to get the race win from Kurt Stenberg, but we're going to go back and have a look at this moment as they're coming over the hill, because this was nuts to butt stuff as they ran up through Hayshed, and they're still going. So we'll try and get this in as they get across the line. It looks like Savage might be safe for P3. But what happened here? Oh, Savage understeered wide off at Hayshed, and Foley had nowhere to go. And Foley on the...
He's in the fence!
Oh, Foley's in the fence. Foley's in the fence on the run out of the final corner as well.
Oh,
Wow, what a finish to this motor race.
Wow.
Wedding is going to get, and Wedding's managed to unsert McMillan. He got him back, so he got 5th place back from McMillan after that. So, job done there. What on earth happened to Brenton Foley in that last little bit? Here they come round the final corner. Foley got on. Oh, look at this. All on his own. He got on the power too early when he was on the curb.
fishtailing.
And
Just fishtailing.
Fishtailing down the main straight.
Nearly mounted the wall at the end there. He looked like he was going to go Trackmania Nation style.
Nearly mounted the pit lane wall on the Gardner Straight.
They
Wowee.
put those catch fences in. I think it was about 10 years ago now they put those catch fences in. I don't know, Peter. I mean, not Peter. Steve, you're
Yeah.
the expert.
Yeah, early in the mid-2000s they put those in, so they've been up for a little while, but you're right, there was a reason why they had to have them there, and that's the way that it is. Now, I think Stenberg's trying to go in the back way. If he does that, he's going to be DQ'd, so he doesn't want to go too much further than that, or the game is, we're going to have a bit of an issue on our hands here trying to reset everything.
He's going to the shop. He's going to the shopping centre.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's doing there. He's going to...
No, I think he's going to the... might be going to the cafe up there, just behind the pits and the control tower. So
looking for a celebratory beer, I think.
Oh, actually, no, he's going home. He's just going home now. That's it. He's just taking Back Beach Road.
And
He'll be going under the tunnel and up Back Beach Road, and then out of Ventnor, out of Phillip Island on the way home, over the San Remo Bridge.
And he's actually
Stenberg's been disqualified.
Yeah, and I knew that was going to happen. Coming in the back way, that's precisely what happens when you come in the back way at Phillip Island. This particular circuit. It was a fantastic race, and we didn't expect the late run of Kurt Stenberg to really challenge Will Devenish late there, but we're going to have some questions for him about what happened in that pit lane sequence that lost him half of what his advantage was when he came in. So I'm suspecting it's either a damage repair or something has gone on. But we'll await these guys to come on board, and we'll have a chat. In the meantime, we'll do a little bit of a points calculation. But now, driver of the night, I think, who was it out of the two of you that suggested that Pete Savage was probably going to be the driver of the night?
Yeah, I've got no idea.
It was one of you. I can't remember. This was about 2 hours ago now. That one.
Actually, no, I think it was me. Yeah, I think I said, I think Peter's gonna, hard charge his way through the field, and I was actually taking the piss out of it off broadcast before. Yeah, you watch you get a podium, and he's got it, and a pretty good performance by Pete, and good strategy as well from both the loose sim sport drivers, saving a bit of fuel and extending it. And
I may say this, Luke. He's won one championship. Now he's a guru.
Yeah, you could call him a guru now. So
absolutely, with a drive like that from the back of the field, and he's done a very good job.
Yeah.
But we've got our
we're bringing him up now.
Podium getters. They're making their way slowly into the commentary box.
We've brought him up now, actually. We were just talking about him being the driver of the night, and he's here now, Hans.
And Pete Savage, a fantastic third place, coming from the rear of the grid. Well done, mate. How was that?
Oh, man. That was insane. I just knew straight out of the block, starting from the rear of the grid, I had to play the fuel save game. It was the easiest way for me to get through the field. I'd lose the least amount of time while overtaking people, which fortunately for me, I was able to overtake everyone off just drive out of corners. And yeah, it really set me up for a good finish. It especially helped that McMillan got a penalty, which I don't know what was for. And I'm actually really happy with that.
Really a fantastic drive, fantastic performance. Luke was singing your praises earlier on tonight. He was saying that you're going to be the driver of the night and you're potentially going to get a podium. And thankfully that came true for you. But also being the champion of the GT3 Sprint Series, I guess you got to back that up, and quite clearly you have.
Yeah, I mean, these cars are completely different to those cars. But, I have seemed to have some... it's taken the pressure off me now that I've dominated a series. I've got the championship win, and I've after that pressure has been lifted, I've now gone back to just having fun while I'm racing, and I was able to do 2 really good performances 2 nights in a row after the GT3 finish season ended. So that was again, that was fucking insane.
Oh, he's dropped the magic.
Hey!
Oh, that's the first. Now, Steve, is that the first time someone's dropped the magic on one of your streams?
I believe so.
Well, he's first time championship winner, first time dropping the magic. Pete Savage, a fantastic performance inside and out of the car. Well done, mate.
Cheers, mate.
He's never going to live that one up, is he?
He's never going to live that one down. We're probably going to have to change his name in the Discord again. But Kurt Stenberg, second place getter tonight, laying down, probably about 10 heaters in a row. Fantastic to close the race off like that, but unfortunately not enough in the end.
Yeah, mate. Really, in all honesty, took too much fuel at the second last stop, and then probably too much. Well, it was enough at the last one, but we miscalculated the fuel. But finally got comfortable with the car there in the last stint, and we laid down as many heaters as possible, but it wasn't possible. I was hoping the gap was going to be about 4 seconds, and it ended up being about 7. So, yeah, it was unassailable at that point.
Well, you did put on a good show towards the end there, and we were eagerly watching your lap times as they were streaming through. But it's pretty unbelievable that you did a couple of laps actually quicker than your 1 lap qualifying shootout in the top 10 shootout.
Yeah, I think I did like 5 laps faster than my qualifying lap, and then I did about 2 laps faster than my shootout lap. So, it shows that the car had more potential last week. We didn't maximise it, but after 200 odd Ks around here, you'd hope that the extra laps had helped you find a bit of pace.
And Kurt, we also heard earlier last week that you weren't perhaps too confident at this track. I guess those confidence myths can be dispelled now.
Yeah, I wasn't too confident at this track, and I must admit I didn't jump on that early tonight and have a crack, but I was a bit worried tonight about the pace, and just the first stint, I was all over the shop under brakes and that. As I say, finally got a bit of confidence in the end there, but it's too little too late, so not a big fan of Phillip Island. We'll move on. I don't know where we go to next, but hopefully I don't have to see this place for another 12 months.
A good points result, and you maintain your championship lead by a whole number of points. Congratulations, Kurt. Second is nothing to be sneezed at. Well done.
No, it's pretty good. It's good for a bad track, but thanks, guys.
Will Devonish was the race winner tonight, and pretty wild, pretty early in the race. There was a 4-car battle back, and they were all rubbing on each other quite a lot there. So, Will, you managed to survive all that, and you managed to put in some good performances towards the end. Very measured and cool and calm, collected drive. Well done.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I think I really needed that. I'd lost a bit of confidence in the last few races in the V8. So, yeah, winning Phillip Island at a track that, quite frankly, I was miserable at last year. It's a good feeling.
Now, we saw towards the end of the race, your pace wasn't quite as hot as Kurt Stenberg's, but were you perhaps playing a measured game, or were you just trying to hold on for dear life?
Well, yeah, I was flogging it as hard as I could too. I think I did, out of those last 10 laps, I think 6 were faster than my qualifying and my shootout lap, so I was pretty happy with the speed there. And yeah, I knew with 7 seconds, all I needed to do was really make sure I didn't fall more than 0.7 down a lap, and we managed to keep it to about 0.3 a lap, so we're pretty happy with that.
And with this race win, you pulled back the margin on Kurt slightly. Can we see a bit more of this going into the later parts of the season?
Fingers crossed. I think in reality, Kurt needs to have a pretty average few rounds for me to get it anywhere close. But if we can pull it back a bit, that'd be great, and it'd be great to finish the season off strong for the team. One thing I'd like to say is thank you for Ozrob for stepping in today, and thanks for the team. 4 cars home with all straight panels, so pretty happy with that.
Great job by yourself, and a great job by the team also. Well done, Will.
Thank you.
Those were our top three. Our top three again: Will Devonish, followed by Kurt Stenberg and Pete Savage. They are your podium, Steve.
Yeah, certainly a deserving podium trio, and I would echo Luke's sentiments that Pete Savage, probably the driver of the day, up 12 places from where he started. Started 15th, finished third, and probably driver of the day from that point of view. But let's not lose sight of the battles that we had all way up and down that 250k endurance race, guys. There was some really, really good battles and really willing fights in the early going, and a number of those positions went right up, Luke, until the very last lap to be decided.
Yeah, McMillan and Lewis Wedding both having their mistakes, but met each other towards the end and having some cracking battles there. And yeah, when you're in that situation towards the end of the race and you're next to your opponent, it's still or die really. You just got to make the move and hope you can keep that position.
Well, to answer Kurt Stenberg's question, the next stop on the calendar is the Gold Coast. So it's not the V8 layout for the Gold Coast. It is the old IndyCar layout. So it's going to be a little bit of a different look to what the Supercars field saw here back in 2018. There's plenty of us that remember what happened in 2018 rather well. But no, it's the Surfers Paradise Street Circuit, and it is a sprint round. The second last of the sprint rounds will take place on November 5th. So it's a little while away, because in between then we've got the Bathurst 500 still to come up, and that'll be, as we said, on the 22nd and the 25th of October. And Supercars will take a backseat championship-wise for about another 5 weeks. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. On another note, thanks to Luke Rosella for jumping in at short notice. And again, good luck to you, sir, for your 1,000 kilometre endurance race of Bathurst on the weekend. We'll be certainly watching that one with interest.
Thanks, Senator. Thanks, guys. Yeah, it was a pleasure joining you guys tonight. And let's hope to get a good result on the weekend.
Fingers crossed, mate. And we'll leave it there for tonight. Thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll see you soon. As always, please drive safely